perfect. Hello. Hello everyone, good to see you. Welcome back to this stream. How are we doing? I apologize for the a bit of an extended intro because this morning I woke up and I decided to be productive before I started, so I went to the gym. Did some cardio and I got back and I'm like, I need more time to like shower and like do stuff. But yeah, hi everyone. Hi Nick, June, Hito, Pat, thank you for popping by. Otaku, good to see you. Everyone else in chat, I hope you guys are doing well. Having a good evening or a good morning, whenever or wherever you are watching in the world. How's everyone doing today? What's the mood today? Is everyone like in a cozy mood or you guys stressed? It's a more. Oh yeah. uh, is that too distracting? You know what? My I know people are inclined to make those kinds of like jokes because like imposter, right? So I really got some like when I was doing the prep stream, we really had like randos coming into the stream and making that joke. So in the end, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna beat people to the punch. I'm gonna belabor the joke so much that people are gonna get sick of it. Hello, Hito. How are y'all's? How's everyone? By the way, I would like to thank everyone for helping to promote this stream and shouting me out. I appreciate the support and the love. You doing okay? Nice, Hito. You doing okay too? Oh, nice, Nick. Good to see. Good to see. Bit sleepy, but good. Alright, that's sleepy is good. Wait, what time is it for you? It is night. Right? Wait, it is very late. Oh, it is very late. 2 a.m. Oh, wow. Thank you for staying up, Jude. If you gotta go to bed, please go to bed. I realize that this thing is a bit late for EU, but we will get to it. I think maybe at the end of it, hi Otaku. I love the Otaku. I think maybe at the end of this, I will do I'll try to condense like the presentation part of it at least into like a video. To post on YouTube, so people can kind of catch up with the material if they don't catch it live. I think that's a great idea. Thank you, Hito. I think it'd be a great idea too. It's just a bit of work, kind of like cut it down. Really good idea. Thank you, Nick. Yeah. No, maybe unless I get like an editor. I don't think. Have you tried the highlighter for editing on Twitch? It might help a lot. Yeah, I have. I have made highlights on Twitch. It's just, I think if I'm gonna do like it's upload the entire VODs YouTube. I had a VODs channel that I've been trying to upload VODs on, but it's such a pain, right? Because OBS renders all the VODs into MKV format, which is huge, right? A 4-hour, 5-hour stream is easily like 50 gigs worth of video, and it takes like the entire night to load that. Unless I remux the recording into MP4 in stream in OBS and then load it up. It's a process. How did it let you cut up parts and then merge it all? It's so handy. Yeah. I was thinking like if I'm making a YouTube video, one, it'll be more accessible because YouTube, right? More people can get to it. Another thing is that I can sort of edit all the like the dead moments in between when I go like kind of thing. But I suppose I can do that in the highlighter as well. And then like download the highlight as a video and put it on YouTube. I guess that works. Hey Ellie, good to see you. Welcome back to the stream. How you doing? Good to see a whole bunch of people coming in. I'm glad that you guys are here. Glad that you guys are coming to support the content. I hope the content is up to par. You heard that? You know what I'm saying? I'm already discounting my own work. Impostor syndrome right there. Segue. Right, I passed my learner's permit yesterday. Nice. I saw your messages. Congratulations, Ali. Um, I hope that you have many good safe drives. Yeah. So I think I will rely on like I'll play with the highlighter then, or else I might just because I have a what is that thing called Premiere, right? So I can like I can use Premiere to cut down the bot. Get the shit out of my dad during my first drive. Oh no. I hope everyone's safe and well. Things considered. Uh, now, shall we jump into it? Well, I kind of like I'm vamping a little bit so that people can come in and then okay, just mentally scared. Okay, fair enough. But uh, I mean, learning to drive, especially in the beginning, is it's a bit of a process. Even if you get your permit, it doesn't mean that you're automatically like a good driver, right? You gotta work towards it, and that's also like uh working towards being something is also something that we will cover. You almost hit a guardrail. Ooh, damn. But that's, I mean, quite not the worst thing. Hi, Jelly. How are you? Can only be here chatting for a bit, but I'm here. Hello, hello, Jelly. Hope you are well. Thank you for swinging by. If you gotta do your thing, please go do your thing. I think it's a very important topic though, so yes, definitely some condensed version will be great for later. Yeah. Thank you for confirming that, Hito. I will do my best to condense it. I ramble a lot, so uh, I'll do my best to like kind of like, mm, you know what, yeah. Let me bring up the slide deck. I ramble too. It's okay. Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough, Nick. Thank you. I ramble plenty. That's what editing is for. Yeah. Well, I should uh learn to be a bit more succinct when I am communicating, even upfront. Like, because uh, like, you ever watch like Dr. K videos, healthygamer.gg, like the videos from the Healthy Gamer channel? When he explains something, he just like goes. He's smooth about it, and he's one of the people I aim to emulate when doing this kind of thing. Um, hey Jed, good to see you. Welcome back to the stream. Many of us ramble. Yeah, it is. It does. As you look at chat a lot, he doesn't really look at chat unless he's like asking for an opinion, or not an opinion, or rather like asking some sort of like a semi-rhetorical questions like, so what do you think what people would say in this situation? And then he'll just kind of pause for a bit and look at chat, and chat will be like, yes, no, yes, no. Now, I feel like he zones into the person he's speaking to on the topic and doesn't really see chat, which may help focus. Yeah, he does. Um, I don't think that's my issue when I ramble, because when I go into presentation mode, I just kind of just talk. I don't really look at chat, at least for a presentation. I don't really look at chat. I even like, by the way, all the alerts. Well, when we go into presentation mode, all the alerts are simplified into like small dings, and no sound alerts are available. So if you want to redeem that kind of stuff, redeem it later on. He's great. His videos are very interesting. Yeah, very interesting. Makes sense to simplify them. Sounds good. Yeah. His videos uh how the fuck do you find activated copper in No Man's Sky? Oh yeah, I saw your alerts. I will answer them. Activated copper, you gotta fly around and find a planet that has it basically. I think they're around. I think they might be around red stars or green stars. I forget. But when you fly towards a planet, you can see when you point your ship at a planet, you can see like a list of things that they might have. If activated copper is on the list, then yeah, go for it. You just gotta like hunt around. You find the planet, go down to the surface, and then look for those like metal deposits and find it out. Oh yeah, the hyperdrive and antimatter is hard for me to make right now. Yeah, you'll get there eventually. It's a bit of a process. So No Man's Sky takes a while to like build up towards what you need to do. You gotta start with the basic uh survival first and then build up to like the higher things. So yeah, anyway, rambling. My issue is not with rambling, is not with getting distracted by chat. It's more like I just kind of like move off into another direction and talk about like, okay, here's the thing about this, and then but about saying something is wrong with your clip for me. Wait, what? Oh wait, hang on. Is there something wrong with the clip? I see it. Oh, the clip still works for me, so I'm gonna mute and look and stream some games. Go ahead, Ali. Thank you for popping by. Have a good look. Yeah, I won't worry about the. Well, sometimes the clip alert thing. I mean, the clip preview thing is a bit wonky. Right. I think we vamped for quite a bit. Yes, I was gonna just go into like the whole topic of imposter syndrome. We'll start off with a bit of like talk about like what's involved. Little bits of information about like what imposter syndrome is about, what the features are, how we can spot it, why it happens, what we can do about it in that sense. And this is coming almost purely from an academic standpoint. Got my notepad ready. Thank you, Jelly. Right. So we're moving into like I said, quiet mode, right? For presentation mode, you gotta. I mean, so alerts still coming. So if people like follow already, we can still see it, hear it, but it's not gonna be like those big memey things. If you want to redeem channel points, redeem sound alerts, don't, because they won't play. Yes. And also, most importantly, exclamation mark not medical advice. Gotta have that on hotkey, right? So, like, just to reiterate, right, we're taking all of this from a more academic point of view. Academic, in the sense of like, I go through the research, we see what's been said, and I kind of like condense it into a way that we'll condense it into a way that is a bit more absorbable by everyone, because research is very dense at times. A lot of the language can get very involved. Even I find that when I do my readings, I'm like, oh god, what is this guy trying to say? I can, so we do our best to condense what we know. Hey Ken, good to see you. Welcome back to the stream. How you doing? Thank you for coming in. Just in time. We're just about to get started. Hang on. Let me. Actually, I just realized that this little guy over here, a bit too high. It's kind of like, oh, you know what? Let's just like get him out of the way. Or have it kind of like peek. Yeah. So yeah. So if we just like for example, we're talking about Dr. K, right? Dr. K comes from a point of a medical professional, so he has his clinical judgment and he's informed by research as well. But he comes with his judgment, and then it's like his opinions are informed by certain things in research that he brings up now and again. For me, it's like I just go into the research and see what's been said, and then I condense it into a way that I think most of us can appreciate more. That being said, if I am rambling or not being clear, do let me know. So when it comes to imposter syndrome, we're gonna be talking about first off what it is, right? You guys can see the slides, right? Yeah, cool. So we'll talk about the definition of imposter syndrome, which is I think something that a lot of us feel, but and we sort of know intuitively, but we don't really have always like the best grip on like what it entails, right? So yeah. So imposter syndrome is this feeling that people get when they achieve success, but they feel like they don't deserve them for reasons that we will go on into later on. People with imposter syndrome believe that they're not intelligent. They are convinced that they have fooled everyone into um, believing that they can do the work, that they deserve to be here, right? Um, they feel like they've basically gotten to where they are in terms of their work or their studies or their careers or their hobbies by some sort of someone's mistake, some clerical error, some they feel like they defrauded the universities. They feel like someone gave them a shot that they didn't deserve or they didn't really earn. So common examples of people who might be facing imposter syndrome are people like uh uh researcher, like for example, if you're a budding researcher uh trying to do their PhD and not and feeling a bit out of place because you feel like your work is not as valuable as other people's work out there, so you don't know if what you're doing is worth putting out there and you don't feel like you deserve to get a PhD. It can come in the form of um, a doctor who's just come out of medical school and now they're an intern and they feel like, oh, now they're officially a doctor, but they don't feel like a doctor. They still feel like a student that has to learn a lot. And they go into a world where everyone else is so much more competent than them, that they feel a bit out of place. It can look like a university student who is looking around at everybody who has better grades than them, who can hold on multiple co-curricular activities, who can form relationships with people, and they wonder to themselves, why can't I do that? Um, uh, it, are they better than me in that sense? You know, so might even be a university student who's in a very prestigious scholarship, uh, that feels and that has moments where they feel like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what to do with my life. They're wasting this money, this scholarship money on me because once I graduate, I have no idea what to do. Yeah, so and it can take the form of other things, other people as well, which we will get into. Uh, and there's always this persistent fear of when people have imposter syndrome. There's a fear that they will one day be exposed as a fraud, and that's where a lot of the stress of imposter syndrome comes in. When you live in this constant fear, like, hey, what? Someday someone's gonna be like, yeah, you really don't deserve to be here, and then they just kick you out, kind of thing, right? Uh, People also feel over evaluated by their peers, and because of this, constant need to live up to an expectation that they feel that they can't meet. There's a general sense of anxiety, lack of self-confidence, depression might kick in as well. And they get like frustrated because they have high standards for themselves and they don't seem to be able to meet those standards. So if this sounds familiar to you, it might be because maybe because you have it, but we'll get into like the nitty-gritty stuff, right? Also, the more important thing is that these, like I said, if this sounds familiar to you, it's probably because we've all experienced something like this before. Everyone has had an experience where they're about to do something that they've never done before, and they have like okay, I don't know if I can do this, right? That sense of self-doubt. That's not the same as imposter syndrome. Well, we can call that imposterism, which is like a small level of imposter syndrome, right? Imposterism is like the symptom, right? Which happens once in a while. But if the feelings are persistent and continuous, where you always feel like this, then it builds up to the point where you have an imposter syndrome, which is where you get this it's not just in a specific moment where you feel like you can't do the thing. You feel that in general, where you kind of like, ugh. You'll hear hear the phrase imposter phenomenon or maladaptive perfectionism, depending on where you look in the literature. Generally speaking, generally speaking, imposter phenomenon is the term that people use in research. So because we kind of started to call it imposter syndrome, because syndrome is what the term we use to refer to, like a collection of symptoms that indicates the presence of a disease. And the jury is still out there. People are still in disagreement as to whether or not imposter syndrome or imposter phenomenon is an actual disease or actual condition, because the ICD, which is like the International Code for Diseases, and the DSM, which is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for psychological and psychiatric conditions, don't list imposter syndrome as like a condition in the same way that they will talk about things like schizophrenia or generalized anxiety disorder or depression, that kind of stuff, right? There's no, yeah, they have, because the definitions and the ways to spot it still a bit iffy, right? And also other earlier research have looked at this as, have used the term maladaptive perfectionism. Yeah. So litmus test is that if you see the word imposter syndrome, it's likely this topic being discussed in a very non-academic sense, because there's been a lot of pop culture papers and editorials, articles that talk about imposter syndrome, because it's becoming a thing that's a lot more pervasive and recognizable now. But we have to keep in mind that these articles don't necessarily come from an academic point of view, because it's and in a sense this talk is also semi-academical, because people talk about their perspectives and give their opinions on how to fix the problem. That's why you get articles where people say like one thing to one way to combat imposter syndrome is to reframe your thoughts, and they just leave it at that, right? They don't tell you how, they don't tell you what thoughts, you know, they just kind of say, oh, just think different. Like, okay, thanks, I guess. So if you see the word imposter phenomenon in an article, then you know it's more like from an academic point of view. So I want to talk more about this, like the term maladaptive perfectionism, because it implies the presence of adaptive perfectionism. And perfectionism is a trait that we see in a lot of people, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. But like for example, adaptive perfectionism is what this paper that we are going to discuss, this paper defines as perfectionism that drives people, is more driven by a desire for success and achieving goals. It involves like a high level of personal standards of diligence and conscientiousness. It's very self-motivated and self-oriented. It's more about like I want to do this for myself. I want to reach the standard I set for myself. And then on the flip side, there's maladaptive perfectionism, which is not driven by a desire for success, but a desire to avoid failure, a fear of failure, and a need to hide your shortcomings and your imperfections from other people, right? So these are more driven by societal driven standards. It's not about what you want inside, but it's about what society and other people expect of you, from you, or rather what you perceive society to expect from you. And people who have maladaptive perfectionism, they tend to fixate over their mistakes and have a lot more self-doubt, which is very close to what we talk about in imposter syndrome. So in this article, when you talk about when this paper talks about the difference between adaptive and maladaptive perfectionism, one of the key differences is that people who are adaptive perfectionists are flexible enough to allow for occasional mistakes, which is not something that maladaptive perfectionists do. Maladaptive perfectionists, they fixate a lot of their mistakes. Adaptive perfectionists, they don't like mistakes, but they kind of roll with it. They see it as part of the process, and they're like, okay, that sucks, but we go again, you know, kind of thing, right? And this whole thing about fixating on mistakes is something we'll pick up more on later on. By the way, thank you for the lurk, Maisie. I appreciate it. Um, Features of imposter syndrome. What we can see in people with imposter syndrome. One thing that people with imposter syndrome have is that they're very hardworking, and this already sounds like a great thing, right? But they are not just very hardworking; they are overtly hardworking, like overly hardworking, because these are people who don't believe that they have earned the right to be in this position. Therefore, they have to work extra hard in order to earn their spot, or in order to like cover up the fact that they're not capable. You know, they're gonna do like extra work. So it becomes a bit of like a vicious cycle where you worry about looking intelligent, so you work extra hard to cover up for your so-called lack of intelligence, and that of course working hard eventually leads you to doing well, and people praise you for doing well and for being intelligent, and then you feel good about yourself for a second, and then after that you're like, oh shit, people think I'm good. Then you start worrying about being intelligent and people thinking that you're better than you actually are, and then in order to keep that up, you gotta work again. It keeps going on and on. So it creates a cycle where you are always working and you're always overworking, and yet you never feel like you're working enough, and you always gotta do a bit more. So that's where that toxic level of hardworkingness comes in, where it just keeps going, piling on without any like seeming end to it. There's this concept that's called professional inauthenticity, or rather, when the article talked about it, they called it academic inauthenticity. Because they talked about it in terms of people who are in academia, who are in research. Inauthenticity, being inauthentic doesn't mean being fake. It mainly refers to you not being your true self. Because specifically speaking, because you feel you are not capable, and you're stupid, you don't feel like you have the right to express what you truly think or feel, because you don't think your opinions have any weight. So you sort of censor yourself in that way, and then you don't speak up. You are more likely to listen to other people and take their word for what you want to do, for their word on their opinions, rather than listen to yourself. Because it's like you can give your opinion, you can sort of like, I think this way, but I don't know, I'm not very sure if anyone else thinks otherwise. I don't know. Then someone else says, well, I think that, and you're like, okay, let's go with them, right? Immediately, like discounting your own opinions and your own feelings because you don't feel like they're worth the thought, right? This especially goes into expressively listening to or adhering to the opinions of people that you seek to impress, because there are you do seek to like impress people, especially the people that you see as authority figures, people that you see like if they are cool with me being here, then it's fine, you know. So you are more likely to listen to them. Yeah, and self-censorship is okay. This professional inauthenticity, not being your true self, like I said, leads into self-censorship, which is very bad in not just academia but a lot of instances, because you never know when someone has a good idea, and someone having a good idea is not necessarily dependent on like what status you are in your organization or whatnot. That's why, like, especially like for example, in research, in my field, a lot of fields of research, the best environments are environments where the research intern who's there for like 2 weeks, who's learning stuff, can speak at the same table as an emeritus professor who has thousands of research papers under their name. Because when you have that open area for talking and discussing, new ideas can come up. Because sometimes just because they're newer people doesn't mean that they have bad ideas. They can have good ideas. They can have ideas that come from like other perspectives, or they can have like a fresh view on things. that people who have been in the field for like decades would not be able to have because they're so fixated in their way of thinking. But if these newer people self-censor and they don't feel like they want to speak up because they don't feel like their thoughts and their opinions are worth anything, then we'll never get these potentially good ideas that people have. Right? Or and like I said before, overly seeking approval from authority and peers, because if you feel like you don't belong, you feel like you need to prove yourself and make yourself feel like a peer amongst the rest. So you seek to ingratiate yourself with other people, especially people in authority positions, using things like friendliness and humor, relatability. But it's not, there's no end to it, because even if you feel like you've won people over, you feel like you won them over not based on your performance but based on other factors. So you still feel like a fraud, right? So it's like a lot of behavior with imposter syndrome is very cyclical and not very it's hard to get out of that trap. And overall, all this leads to a low sense of self-worth, because people with imposter syndrome, even when they do something well, even when they have a success, when they pass an exam, where they have a good presentation, where they solve a problem, right, and people congratulate them, they don't feel like their success is because of their ability. They feel like their success is because of the fluke, because they got lucky, because they got a lot of help, because of whatever X reason other than the fact that they are capable, right? So even when they have a success, they're not able to enjoy the success. They can enjoy the feeling of the success for like a second, when they're like, oh, I did something cool, okay, and then after that it quickly fades, because like, yeah, but I didn't do it, it just happened, right? It just, yeah, I didn't cause it. So yeah, so you get that you get the reduced sense of agency, the reduced sense of like you're able to do stuff because of your power, and things that happen around you that are good don't happen because of you. So what good are you bringing to the table? So you have that low sense of self-worth. Other things include things like people who have imposter syndrome are very fixated on social standing, right? Because they don't want to display their imperfections to people. They want to keep up this in their mind, the facade that they are more capable than they actually are. So they're very aware of what people think of them, or what they think that other people think of them. It's a very like internal kind of process, right? But here's the thing to note about people with imposter syndrome: their actual ability is not actually different from those without imposter syndrome. People with and without imposter syndrome, if you look at their ability, their performance, their scores or whatnot, in academia, in their exams, in their work performance, blah blah blah, they perform the same as people without imposter syndrome. Sometimes even better because of the amount of work they put in. The thing is not that. What doesn't matter? What matters is not how much work they put in or what their ability is. What matters is that they still feel like they perform worse than everyone else. So it's a more of a perception thing that people aren't able to escape, right? And it's not our fault. Just because like it's something that we feel, it's like it seems like we're doing something that we're doing to ourselves, but it's not our fault in that sense. It's just people with imposter syndrome, we just have a bit of like a maladapted way in which we judge ourselves, and it's something that we can work past. And it's an interesting thing. In spite of people with imposter syndrome feeling like frauds, they actually don't engage in fraudulent activities. This is research backed, by the way. Fraudulent activities, like for example, cheating, plagiarism, actual things that frauds do, right? They don't do that, right? Because people with imposter syndrome want to distance themselves from fraudulent behaviors. They feel like a fraud, so they want to like get away from that feeling, so they will not engage in all these kinds of like false behaviors. And also because they feel like they're imposters, and they always live in this fear of being found out, or discovered to be a fraud. people don't want to engage in suspicious behaviors that might arouse attention from other people. Um, is there anything else? And also, yeah, also, a very important thing. A lot of people with imposter syndrome have this feeling of isolation. Because they feel like everyone else is better than them, and they're not good enough. They feel like they're in this themselves, and they don't feel like anyone else understands what they're going through. Which is why one of the things that we can do to fight imposter syndrome, which we can talk about later on, is the feeling is the act of like reaching out to other people and social connectedness and social support. Then we discover that people are able to other people other than ourselves feel imposter syndrome as well. And also, like I said before, low tolerance for failure, right? Because you fixate on failure, you don't see failure as part of the process, but something that brings you closer to being found out. So you're afraid of that. So when we're talking about fraudulent behaviors, the paper talked about a thing, talked about how people with imposter syndrome don't engage in fraudulent behaviors, even though they still engage in what they call self-sabotaging behaviors. And so this is a very interesting thing that it's a bit, in my opinion, when I did the reading, it's a bit controversial as to like, because it's a bit blamey in that sense. But I think it's worth discussing a little bit because there is a little bit of a grain of truth. People with imposter syndrome, they are more likely, not will, but more likely to engage in what they describe as self-sabotaging behaviors. Things that we do that ironically and also sometimes somewhat purposefully hinder our success. A big example of this is procrastination. Procrastination is a very good example of a self-sabotaging behavior. If you think about it, it makes no sense to leave something to the last minute, right? Because you're just hurting yourself and giving yourself less time to do the thing. And procrastination is a bit of a multifaceted thing as well, because it's also a bit of anxiety driven. It's also a bit of an avoidant behavior. But things like procrastination, things like not really trying hard enough, just not giving your all into it, it's self-sabotaging. It's something that we do that is going to decrease our chance of success. But it's paradoxical because if we engage in these self-sabotaging behaviors to reduce our chances of success, because on some level we might feel like we deserve to have a lower chance of success because we don't actually deserve to be here. So self-sabotaging kind of gives us an out, a scapegoat in that sense when performance is not good enough. Like it's a bit self-defeating. Also it helps, it's a bit of a coping mechanism, and it helps people to avoid the thought that I couldn't do this because I wasn't good enough, right? When you actually can't do something well because of the procrastination, you think to yourself, yeah, I didn't do as well because I didn't give myself a lot of time. That's the reason why. So you do that to avoid attributing the failure to yourself. You can attribute it to the sabotage, to the handicap that you're giving yourself. Where this concept becomes controversial is that, one, not everyone does this, of course. Two, even if people do procrastinate, like I said, it's not necessarily because they want a self-hamper. It's also like an anxiety thing as well. And also three, it's people, it goes against the thought of if you remember what we were discussing before, it goes against the thought of people with imposter syndrome working harder than everyone else to prove their worth, and self-sabotaging behaviors goes against that. So there's also, like, the later research also talks about what the term is claimed self-sabotage, in which case in which people understand that they don't actually self-sabotage because they know that that doesn't make sense. And also, if people can see that you're self-sabotaging, if people can see you're not putting the effort, they are gonna like have a poor social perception of you, which people with imposter syndrome don't want. So they're not actually self-sabotaging, but they claim that they're self-sabotage. Right? And we can see this in research um, where you give people with imposter syndrome and without like a task to do. I forgot what task this paper talked about, like a some sort of memory task or a puzzle task or something like that. And when the people with imposter syndrome were asked what they felt about their performance, whether they could have done better or not, they talk about things like they claim all these things like, yeah, I wasn't trying very hard, I didn't practice hard enough. I guess that's why I didn't do as well. But when they look at the actual data, in the practice data, they perform the same as people without imposter syndrome. So it's not actual self-sabotage. They sort of just claim it, right? It's like they claim that they have a handicap, or they're more attributed to something that they perceive to be a handicap as opposed to something that they actually did to hurt themselves. So what we can take away from this is this: like, people with imposter syndrome do their best, but when their performance is not up to par, they're more likely to attribute it to external cause, like an external factor that happened, that instead of claiming an internal cause that they were not good in the moment. So I see a lot of people sweating in chat because they feel like this applies to themselves. So this point, who can get imposter syndrome? Anyone. Yeah, that's it. All right, so this is a bit disingenuous. Yes, everyone can experience imposter syndrome. Sure. That being said, now that being said, I think it's still worth it to talk about who is more risk of getting imposter syndrome, right? If you don't fall into these categories, it doesn't mean that you can't get imposter syndrome. People who fall into these categories are more at risk of it, more likely to get it. So people that work at high performance and high stress environments, doctors especially, people who are I don't know, people who have the spotlight on them, right? Yeah, people who are always whose performance is always based on outcome and KPIs, key performance indicators, always feel scrutinized in that sense, and therefore they always feel like they have the eye on them and they have to constantly prove themselves, right? But this doesn't mean that if your field is not high performance or high stress, that is not that doesn't apply to you. Because one study did find that they compared perfectionism levels in med students with art students, and they found like art students have higher levels of maladaptive perfectionism, which is weird to think about, because you think about med students probably have more stress than art students, right? It might also be the case that med students might be a bit more aware of the imposter syndrome and aware of its effects, and there might be also better support systems in place to help them against it that art students don't have, because people don't think about art students in that way. A lot of studies have found that imposter syndrome is more common in women than in men. When they did literature reviews on this, they looked at all the literature. Half the papers found more imposter syndrome to be more common in women than in men, and the other half found no difference. The point is that no paper found. There's only one paper that found like it was higher in men than in women. By the way, a lot of papers look at men-women dichotomy. There is very little research into people who fall into other gender categories. Only one paper that found more imposter syndrome to be greater in men than in women, and that was in a cohort of Malaysian medical students. And it's funny that it happens in Malaysia. This Malaysian paper found it, and not papers in a majority of research comes from the US, from Canada, from Europe, from India, from Iran. Because yeah, and they found that it's more common in minority groups, ethnic minorities as well, because I think the reasons with women and with ethnic minority groups is kind of similar in that these are groups that traditionally feel like they're traditionally more scrutinized, and they're traditionally more feel like they have to prove more in order to like be there, um and this at the same place with like white men, you know. um and it's also more common for people in lower societal positions, people who are just entering their jobs. um and you can also see like how like this is similar to like depending on what industry and what culture you're talking about, women and people of ethnic minorities might also fall under the category of lower societal positions, as unfortunate as that might be. um so, uh these are the kinds of people that don't fall under what society views as traditionally useful leadership skills, because leadership is very leadership okay. Uh, Properties of leaderships of good leaders, they're very stereotypically masculine. uh very people who are very assertive, very strong, very decisive, who are confident, uh, and goes very it's very different from what society understands as more feminine traits. People who are more nurturing, more warm, more emotional, those aren't seen as very good leadership positions, right? Leadership traits. Therefore, when people with those traits attempt to go into leadership positions, they feel more scrutinized. They feel more left out. They feel like this is not what I'm cut out for, right? um Culture, like funny about the Malaysian paper, because culture might be a mediating factor. There's not a lot of research into this. A lot of research into imposter syndrome really looks at people with uh people from a lot of western countries. There's not a lot of research from Asia, especially East Asia and Southeast Asia. I've seen one paper from Korea and one paper from Malaysia. I haven't seen any from China or any other Southeast Asian country like Singapore or Philippines, um, Thailand. I haven't seen any from Japan. I haven't seen any from, yeah, basically a lot of Asian countries, um, which is and these are all countries where uh, they're you're more likely to get uh, societal and also parental goals and aspirations for you, for the person, as opposed to having your own goals, which is something that builds onto people with imposter syndrome, right? You get all these external um, uh, standards you have to meet that you feel like you can't meet. Age might be a factor. The literature is a bit mixed on this, because uh, with time might come a building of imposter feelings that will result in imposter syndrome, but also with time also comes experience and also more time to rise to the level, and you be getting comfortable with that level. So the literature isn't really in agreement as to whether or not age is a factor if of imposter syndrome. And content creators, right? A lot of research, the research is very limited in the sense that most of it looks at students, especially medical students, medical professionals, healthcare, allied health nurses, dentistry students. One paper looked at managers. One paper looked at a lot of people look at psych students, because psychology students are a very good pool of place to get psychology research participants. You don't need to pay them, just give them extra credit, right? But I think this is something that is very relevant to us as gamers and people in social media and people in content creation, YouTubers, Twitch streamers, all that kind of stuff. And there's no research on that, but there is a bit of a unique environment for people like Twitch streamers, which we will get into in a bit. So, factors that might contribute to imposter syndrome happening in people. One thing, learn expectations. Like this is the big reason why I bring up culture, right? The first paper that talks about imposter syndrome written in the 1970s by two women talking about imposter syndrome in professional women. They gave this scenario of like two siblings, one older, one younger. The older sibling is the sibling that was exalted by the parents as being the academic one, the smart one, the one more likely to be successful, the one that can do anything, the one that is naturally gifted. And then the other one, the other sibling, the younger sibling, was the one touted by the parents as not being as smart, but they're more street smart, the more nurturing, the more emotional, the more caring, the more sensitive in that sense. So this younger and more emotional sibling grows up their whole life being told that they're not good enough. So when you're told you're not good enough, you get told that enough times, you start to believe that you are not good enough. Therefore, when you do achieve something, you don't believe that you're good enough to achieve that. Therefore, you got that via other means, via illegitimate means, via means that were not in your control. You were lucky, you had help, blah blah blah. All those reasons that we talked about before. Imposter syndrome. And you think that this guy who was being told that they were good all their life escaped unscathed, but no, because being told that you're good your entire life is also not healthy, because you will eventually reach a point where you go into like higher education, go into the bigger world, where you discover that you're not actually like good at everything. You will eventually encounter something you can't do, and that's very shattering to your ego. And when you discover something that you can't do, you start to question everyone that has told you that you can do everything. Then you start to question that, and you think like, well, they lied to me. What else is true? What else did they lie to me about? Right? So is my whole life a lie? Am I not actually as smart that people told me that I was? Imposter syndrome right there. So see, neither is good. See, this whole thing about like maintaining getting expectations from other people, getting too high expectations or not getting high enough expectations, has the potential to like do this to people. There's this thing about high end game goals with no roadmap. A lot of us aspire to be something better, which is a good thing to do. Good, it's always good to like be better than yourself, right? To improve. But what kind of mark are we giving ourselves? Are we aiming to be a bit better? Are we aiming to be like the best, right? What kind of gap are we giving ourselves? Like you can wake up right now and say like I want to be as big of a streamer as Miss Kid, right? And that's the only goal that matters to me. And I will not rest until I'm as big as Miss Kid. So there's no roadmap. It's just like Miss Kid or nothing, Miss Kid or bust, right? So you will always aspire to that, and as long as you don't reach Miss Kid levels, you are never good enough. Even if you are improving, right? You're constantly improving. You are still not feeling like you're good enough until you reach the Miss Kid level, right? So because there's no roadmap, because you're giving yourself a very high goal without any intermediate goals, every success that you have doesn't feel like a success. It feels like even more work. So, cultural institutional factors I was mentioning before, cultures where there's a lot more parental expectations on us, cultures where certain professions are seen as more desirable, doctors, engineers, that kind of stuff, than others. Institutional factors as well. When I say institution, I mean your organization, your workplace, your peer group, your university, that kind of stuff. What kind of culture is happening in there? Are people very competitive? Are people very communicative? In middle management and proximal management, I'll use this term later on. Proximal management, your direct supervisor, your mentor, has a very big role in setting this up for us, setting up expectations and potentially setting up too many expectations that people can't fit, or expectations without any praise or explanation that leads people to feel a bit fish out of water, right? Yes, and the need to maintain social standing, whether or not you're in social media, or because we live in a very social world. This need to maintain our standing and keep our appearances up with other people will lead us to like always strive to be something that we don't think we are. having more to prove, right? There's a paper that looked at imposter syndrome and factors that lead to imposter syndrome specifically for minority students. Um, they cited things like lack of financial aid, racial discrimination, having to work multiple jobs, um, being the first in their family to be in higher education. Therefore, there's a bigger expectation of them. So these higher expectations, these greater life difficulties, systemic obstacles that come in their way, um, are more barriers to like uh, achieving what they want to achieve, right? Or rather, they are made to feel like even though they're achieving, they have to overcome all these obstacles so they don't feel like achievements, so they cannot benefit from their achievements. There are personal factors that come into imposter syndrome, like being a perfectionist, like a maladaptive perfectionist, like we mentioned before. Pessimism comes into play as well if you're not able to, if people who are personality-wise not very inclined to see the good side of things and always like look for danger and whatnot. And people with low self-esteem as well. A lot of these personal factors, depression, anxiety, pessimism, low self-esteem, it's a very chicken egg thing. They help to lead into imposter syndrome, and as imposter syndrome gets worse, they echo all these symptoms and make them even worse. And it's also this concept of forming a personal identity. Sorry, not a professional identity. I mean, a lot of us, when we go into like a profession, there's a gap between starting and becoming that profession. Nobody comes into like nobody gets this thing where they want to be an Avenger and then suddenly Tony Stark comes to you and says, okay, you're an Avenger now. Boom, that's it, right? There's always a gap between learning how to be a professional and becoming a professional that you want to be. Like for a doctor, it's like going to med school, but even after med school, there's residency, there's internship. Throughout the whole process, there's a bit of a learning, there are learning steps here and there. And throughout this whole learning process, you are always emulating the person you want to be. You are emulating becoming a doctor. You're not a doctor yet, you're emulating becoming a doctor. And you'll do that up until a point where you invariably have done it so much that you reach doctor status. And doctor status might be official in that you graduate and boom, people put a doctor in front of your name. But you may not feel that way because you don't feel the same. You feel the same as you did yesterday before you were a doctor. Fake it till you make it is sort of like that. It sort of comes into play. The problem is, when do we make it, right? So there is a point that we can fake it / emulate / learn until we make it. But the more, if we do that and we have encountered a lot of obstacles in the way, inability to accept our successes and our growth, all those like systemic hardships that we encounter, if all these obstacles come in our way and the learning process doesn't feel like we're making any headway, then that builds into imposter syndrome, because we keep going towards it, the goal, but we never feel like we get there. So we always feel like we're playing catch up. We always feel like we're not good enough. We need to do a bit more. You know? Yeah. So this part here, the purpose of this slide, apart from the excuse of me putting my face besides all these people, is here we go. Yep. This is the part that's relevant to a lot of us. Like I said before, there isn't a lot of research into imposter syndrome in social media and content creation. There's research in social media and how that affects our like self-view and our self-worth, but that's something separate. But so this is something that we can kind of like discuss and speculate a little bit. But I mainly want to discuss things about being a content creator, being whether it's a Twitch streamer, a TikToker, a YouTuber, Instagram influencer, that makes this environment different from other environments where they traditionally study imposter syndrome, and yet we still have it. One thing is that social media has this big is very centered on this culture of self-promotion, self-comparison, and social standing. We've seen before that that this fixation on social standing, and other people's perception of us is not good and leads into imposter syndrome, and it's something that has to be should be avoided or managed in people with imposter syndrome. It's not as easy for people who are content creators because our whole job, the whole thing is social standing and self-promotion, right? When you like retweet your when you like tweet yourself and ask for retweets, you shout yourself or you shout other people out. You're always looking at social standing. Even if I'm doing this right now, I'm talking this right now, I'm still looking at my view counter, right? I know it doesn't matter, but I'm still fucking looking at it, right? Because it's social standing and how people perceive you is a big part of the job, and it's not something that we can ignore, because if people don't see you, don't view you favorably, they don't view you, and then that's it, right? So, avoiding the self comparison is not something that we can easily avoid. There's this, there's this thing I like to call the Instagram effect, where a lot of us, when we Twitch highlights, right, and Instagram posts, Twitch clips are basically this: we show our best moments, we show the best thing that happened to us, and we hide all the boring stuff, right? We clip all like the squad wipes and the wins in Apex. We don't clip the times we die and drop unless it's funny, right? We clip all the best moments. Everyone clips all their best moments, and we all look at each other, everyone, and we look at everyone's best moments, and we get this like skewed perception in our head that this is their life and this is how they do and they're that good. And that kind of like messes with our perception of like, oh, they are much better than us, right? We see tweets about people who like, I had an amazing stream, I got rated for 1,000 people, blah, and then you don't hear about the other streams where they're like had 3 viewers or something, you know? Not that 3 viewers is bad, but relatively speaking, right? So that really skews our perception of how well other people are doing, which in turn skews our perception of how well we're not doing in that sense. And that's the other thing. We're comparing to other people. We're constantly comparing to other people, right? But these people are also our peers, our mentors, but they're also a competition. Like, Jude, thank you so much for popping by. Have a good rest of your evening. Sleep well. Take care. Thank you for staying up. Alright. Our fellow Twitch mutuals, Instagram mutuals, you know, people that we stream with, stream beside, we rate, we get rated by, our peers, our mentors, their competition, they're all the same people. Even though Twitch mutuals are our friends, can be our friends, not all our friends, but can be our friends, they're also our competition. Especially in Twitch, because Ross has spoken about this before. Twitch is a very unique situation from things like Instagram and TikTok or YouTube, where you can have like people can consume multiple YouTubers, right? Or watch your video there, watch your video there, watch your video. But in Twitch, even if you are looking at a lot of chats, you are basically just watching one person. And if someone's watching someone else, they're not watching you. So even if they're watching, even if they're watching your friends, great, they're watching your friends, but they also mean they're not watching you. In that same time, I mean. So the people that we go to for support, in a very social support setting to help to combat our imposterism, are also the people that we compare ourselves against. And we think about like, why am I not getting as big of a viewership as that person, blah blah blah. So it's a bit of a tough situation that we are in. Also, when you talk about inauthenticity, right? As performers, we are always putting on a show. I know there are a lot of people who are same on camera as they are off. But there are also a lot of people who put on a show, like people who are a bit more like ragey or who cosplay, even VTubers who have personas. They're always putting on a show, and even if you are the same as yourself, you may not always behave in the same way as you would off camera, because you might do your best to censor your own not so desirable reactions. someone's pissing you off in chat, it's not nice to go like, shut the fuck up, even though you want to say tell them that, right? It's always nice to be a bit more like, yeah, I guess you can say that, agree to disagree though, right? And it's not the reaction that you feel like you want to give, but it's the reaction you feel like you have to give in order to not alienate people in chat, for example, right? So the more you have to put on a show, the more you have to like do things that you don't come naturally to you, the more you might feel you are being inauthentic in that sense. Like, am I doing this because this is how I actually feel, or is it because I'm on camera? Am I gonna play Elden Ring because I love Souls-likes, or do I actually hate Souls-likes, but Elden Ring is the in-game right now, therefore I must play it, right? You know, and if I play a game that I don't like because I get views, am I being my true self? Am I being authentic? Are people gonna eventually find out that I actually hate Souls-likes and I'm only playing this for the views? Like, you know, like, well, these are the kinds of things that sometimes people think about, and leads us to feel very inauthentic. And we feel inauthentic, we feel like an imposter. And also this is the thing, when we talk about like organizations, right, and how your proximal manager, your supervisor, your mentor can help to foster an environment that is protective against imposter syndrome by being more diverse, being more communicative, being more supportive, being more understanding. We don't necessarily have that as content creators because a lot of us are, unless you work for an org or something, right? Even if you don't, a lot of us are, even if you do, a lot of us are essentially small business owners and free agents, in that there is no organizational support, right? Jeff Bezos has no idea who we are, right? I don't, as a Twitch streamer, I don't have a boss to answer to. Everyone as a Twitch streamer doesn't have a boss to answer to. So the culture that we surround ourselves in is basically Twitch. And it's this like nebulous, uncontrollable mass of whatever it will be in any given day in time. And it's not something that can be controlled, right? If the Twitch environment around you is not being conducive and it's helping you give you feelings of imposterism, it's not something that you can do anything about. In the same way that your supervisor, your boss can like sit down and have a proper chat with you in order to like hash things out, right? And then there's also this thing of gatekeeping and backseating, things that a lot of Twitch streamers don't like. As a quick recap, gatekeeping refers to when people tell you that when people like question your ability or your passion for a certain topic, like or you're a Star Wars fan, name every star kind of thing, right? Or like you're not a real Lord of the Rings fan because you haven't read the Silmarillion or however you pronounce it, kind of thing, right? Even though you like whatever you see, you people tell you like, no, you're not good enough because you haven't done this, you haven't done that, gatekeeping you from what you love. And backseating, it's like, I think a lot of us find annoying is when people this kind of like tell you how to play a game in chat, right? Advice here and there is nice, but when people tell you like, no, you're not supposed to do this, you're not supposed to do that, heal now, heal now, heal now, drop all your heals, why are you carrying 12 backpacks, what the fuck, right? You question people's playstyle and don't give deference to like how they want to play the game or how they're learning to play the game. You just tell them like, no, you're wrong, right? So gatekeeping and backseating altogether can start to add to a Twitch streamers or content creators feelings of people are questioning my passion for this, people are questioning my ability to play this game, my ability to stream. I guess I'm not as good as I thought I am. It kind of adds to those feelings of like, I'm not good enough, right? This is why backseating and gatekeeping can be very toxic. This is why if you as Twitch streamers, we need to be careful of this. As moderators, we need to be sure that people don't get into your streamer's head when it comes to backseating, because it can really mess people up. It's not just about like annoying people in the zone. Backseating and gatekeeping, these kinds of things can pile up and lead to feelings of inadequacy. Uh, uh, because yeah, because like if people question your ability to be there, eventually you're gonna listen. Like if so many people think I'm not good, am I really not good? Yeah. And here's the thing, another thing, there is no end game, right? Like, what's the end point of being a Twitch streamer? There's an end point to being a doctor because there's a highest rank, a senior consultant or something like that, right? You can do like I want to publish this paper or this journal, blah blah blah. As an academic, I say I want to work for this thing. What's the end game for being a Twitch streamer, right? There's always something higher to do. I gave the example right now. You want to reach Miss standard, right? You want to be as a big of a streamer as Miss. Let's say you work 20 years and you reach Miss standard. By the time you get here, Miss probably here already, right? If he's still in the game, right? And there's nothing that says that if you reach Miss standard, then what about like, okay, I could go beyond this. One more viewer, one more follower. There's no theoretical upper level. There's no end game. There's no point. Unless you are perfectly fine with like, I don't know, I'm fine with where I am right now. I like having a chat with 6 viewers where it's all like regulars. I can just talk about stuff. And it's always a good vibe. If you like that and that's your end game, then you by definition defined your end game that you want to have. That's good. If your end game is defined by what is out there, what is possible, then it's never going to end because it's always going to be a next level, a next level, a next level. So there's never going to be a point where you feel like you've achieved something. This is the whole thing, right? Where you don't set, where you don't have like, don't have a roadmap, don't have like midpoints. If you keep going, to reach as high as you can go, you're always reaching for a goal that never, that theoretically doesn't exist or can never be reached. It's always like moving, so you never feel like you achieve anything. And you feel like all of your efforts are not for anything. Hi Ali, good to see you. Welcome back to the stream. So here's a bit of a flip side. Can imposterism be good? And I say imposterism because I use the term imposterism to refer to feelings of being an imposter that don't amount to having full-blown imposter syndrome yet, right? So there's this thought process put up by one or two more recent papers. In fact, this paper is like in 2020. It talks about how imposter syndrome might be a double-edged sword, in that just based on the sign of how many successful people have some level of imposterism, maybe imposterism has a bit of a good thing to it. Maybe it increases our drive to succeed. Maybe there is a healthy level of imposterism that can help us maintain our drive, and if we go beyond that, then it starts to get toxic and it's bad for us, right? So, is there a way to strike a balance with how much imposterism we feel? So, perhaps a better way to think about this is this graphic that I've put up, right? So, this is the formula, the theoretical formula framework that I want us to think about. They're centered around this equation. Imposterism equals expectation minus ability. What is the difference between what we feel is expected of us and what we feel our ability is? How that leads to how we feel, right? So everybody wants to be in this, like this first one, this sweet spot, right? You guys can see the highlights, right? Yeah, you can. Okay, good. Everybody wants to be in this sweet spot where your expectations and your ability are perfectly matched. You know what's expected of you, and you have the exact skills to meet that, and that's it. Boom, sweet spot. You've achieved nirvana, right? If, for example, if your ability goes a bit higher than expectations, you get this point where you feel overqualified. Right? You might feel that you are you can still feel accomplished, but you feel like you might be bored because like you feel like you can knock anything out of the park, but there's not really that much of a challenge because you're a bit overqualified for the job. This is like uh you know the hero. Okay, the hero in every movie, they go through their journey in the first movie, right? And they become like who they want to be. And the second movie, the beginning of the second movie, it always starts with a fight where you can see them kicking ass, right? Because they become a thing. Neo, that's it. Neo in the Matrix Reloaded, right? You see Neo go through his whole journey in the first Matrix movie, and he becomes like the one at the end. Spoiler alert. And the second movie, you can see him very easily beating agents at the beginning. Later he has challenges, but in the beginning he's like there. He's overqualified, right? So it feels good. We can still feel accomplished, but we become bored because there's no challenge to us. And then we get this point where our ability becomes much higher than our expectations, what's expected of us. We feel superior. Then we start to feel dissatisfied because we feel underutilized, we feel bored, we feel like this job is beneath us. We don't, why am I here? I'm way beyond this. This is beneath me kind of thing. That's not good. The unbalance the other way is also not good because when your expectations are above your ability, you get imposterism, right? You feel like something's expected of you and you can't really meet it, so you're gonna have to work a bit more to hit that mark. But if your expectations greatly exceed your ability, that's where imposter syndrome comes in, possibly, right? Perhaps that's what the framework is, where the expectations met of you are so high that you don't feel like you can meet them. Therefore, why am I here? This must be a mistake that I'm here. Imposter syndrome right there, right? So, but the key point, right? The key point is the word feel. I said, right? The feelings of imposterism are the difference between what we feel is expected of us and what we feel our ability is. So again, this is how we interpret it. It can be a bit subjective. It's not necessarily what like our job tells us to do XYZ and we cannot do XYZ because we're not qualified. It's all about like we feel overwhelmed by the situation. We feel like we can't respond to it. This thought process of like, is there a good level of imposterism? Maybe. Maybe we need a bit of like feeling that we're not there yet gives us a drive to keep carrying on. If we feel like we're there already, or we'll feel like we're overqualified, there's no drive to improve. But we can't feel so out of our depth that was like, I shouldn't be here at all. Because that's where imposter syndrome kicks in. Quick roll off of things that imposter syndrome can lead to, like we said before: depression, anxiety, feelings of like poor self-esteem and self-evaluation, like we mentioned before. Like I said before, a lot of this is very chicken and egg. These things can lead to imposter syndrome, and imposter syndrome can lead to these things becoming even worse. This poor self-evaluation is especially important because, like we mentioned before, people with imposter syndrome are not responsive to success. If we get success, we feel like we didn't earn it and it was because of some other external factor. Therefore, we cannot take it to reinforce the idea that we did good, right? It also lead to burnout and poor job and life satisfaction and poor work-life balance because we feel like we are constantly having to work more and more and more. The more you work, the less time you give yourself, the more likely you are to burn out. The more you work for less perceived payout, the less satisfied you are with your job. And the more you work, the more less time you have for yourself. The work-life balance is all over the place because you're just not giving time for yourself, right? You're not giving time to recharge. It's all about work. It's nothing else. And then imposter syndrome can also lead us to keeping a low professional profile. This is like I said, like if you feel like a fraud and you don't want to be found out, you just want to avoid being seen like a failure. So you just kind of fly under the radar and you don't put yourself out there for fear of that someone might discover that you are a fraud. And because you don't put yourself out there, you never allow yourself to excel, to lead, to do things that you never done before, to improve. And the organization that you're working within will never benefit from your greatest potential for excellence because you never put yourself out there. And also stress, right? It's constant stress of like being in a position where you might always be found out, right? You're always living in fear, right? To keep up with like the facade, the image they're giving people, obsessing over keeping one's position and how to advance. In fact, we're talking about like self-sabotaging behaviors. There's an idea that when people with imposter syndrome engage in self-sabotaging behavior, part of it is trying to sabotage their chances of their position of being there, so that people will eventually find out that they're imposters and they don't deserve to be there, and they get kicked out. Because once you get kicked out, there's ironically a sense of relief in that, okay, I've been found out. It sucks that I found out, but I no longer need to keep the facade, and that's it. You know, it sucks that you lost the position, but on some level, you're relieved that you don't have to keep up the lie anymore, which is paradoxical and also a very illogical and unhealthy way to think about things. So yeah, problems. Yeah, like I said before, not motivated to excel or lead because you don't want to put yourself out there and like draw attention to yourself. So how do we manage imposter syndrome? I'm gonna tell you right now that there is very little, almost no documented or research methods for dealing with imposter syndrome, except for the blanket solution of cognitive behavioral therapy, because CBT in a professional setting with a licensed psychiatrist or psychologist can help to fix a lot of things. CBT in itself is very flexible, so yeah. But other than that, there's not a lot of research into like what can fix our imposter syndrome. And if you see a popular science article that talks about, oh, this is how you fix imposter syndrome, a lot of it is very much conjecture. But what we can sort of like glean from all these sources is that the first thing, right, as this is the case with any mental concern, the first solution is to recognize it within ourselves. This is the very duh thing to say, but I think it bears repeating. Given what we know about imposter syndrome right now, the first step is to recognize it in ourselves, to recognize that we do face these concerns, and then we can start to do something about it. There's a lot more talk about organizational support, especially from proximal organizational sources like your managers and your mentors, to help to cultivate a healthier work environment that is not as toxic, or is not as like kind of squeeze people dry like that. Because a lot of research in the past and a lot of like thought process in the past have really framed imposter syndrome to be a very personal issue, a matter of self-perception within the mind that the person has to fix. In other words, the person is broken, right? And then we're starting to shift away from that and towards thinking about like, yeah, but what about the organizations and the environment surrounding us? How are the expectations put onto us? That's your one joke. That's your one Among Us joke, by the way, Ross. Oh, fuck, I can't time him out. Okay, anyways, what is our environment, our organization doing to contribute to the imposter syndrome? Putting unreasonable expectations, pitting people against other people. This goes into like the peer network as well, which is where social support comes in, right? Talking about each other's about feelings of imposterism. This is very important. Even if you don't have imposter syndrome, if you only have feelings of imposterism, but Ali, can you take that talk to another place? Thanks. Even if you don't have feelings of imposter syndrome, you only have a bit of imposterism, not amounting to full-blown imposterism. And it's worth talking about. It's worth sharing with other people, because maybe you do have imposterism, but you just don't feel like you have it full. But after talking about it, you might realize that you do. Or even if you don't have imposter syndrome, but you do have the symptoms of imposterism, talking to other people about it will help us realize that these thoughts are more common than we feel, than we initially thought. That and other people have these thoughts as well, and it's possible to have these thoughts without being full-blown uncontrolled imposter syndrome, right? In talking to each other about this, we validate each other's doubts and fears, which is a very important thing, not just in imposter syndrome, but in talking to anybody concerning their concerns, their insecurities and stuff like that, right? When people say stuff like, I'm not good enough to play this game, I'm not a good streamer, I'm not entertaining, I'm not funny, blah 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 kind of thing, there's always this almost gainsay, like automatic reaction to be like, no, you're fine, you're amazing, you're beautiful, you're perfect, you're cracked, you're hilarious, blah 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 kind of thing. And it's a nice thing to say. At the same time, it's not really addressing what the person is saying, right? If a person plays Apex and they keep dying on drop and they say like, damn, I'm not having a good day today, and then people may chat like, no, you're cracked, right? I'm like, the person will be like, do you not see what I'm seeing? Are you not listening to what I'm saying? I am not winning any fights. How are you saying I'm cracked? It kind of gives off the feeling that people are not being sincere with their words, even though they mean the best when they give us these good words, right? So it is possible to reassure a person that they are better than they think they are. They're worth more than they think they are. They are better at the game than they think they are. They just might be having a bad day. They're a better streamer than they are. It's just like algorithm reasons. They are more hilarious than they are. It's just not the right crowd. All these kinds of things. The first step always has to be validate their doubts and their fears by recognizing that I hear what you say, I can see what you're saying, and I hear you. Let the person feel heard, so that the concerns are, heard and validated by someone, so they don't feel like they're going nuts in their own head thinking about this and then no one else agrees, right? Because if they're thinking one thing and everyone else tells them differently without any explanation, they're like, it's almost like they're gaslighting themselves into thinking, wait, why is everyone saying this and I'm not thinking it? What's wrong with me, kind of thing, right? Yeah, validate what they feel and where it comes from, so they feel seen, so they see like, oh, people recognize me, they see me and they see my concerns. Then we can go there from then on to help out like what they're going through and try to help to do the reframing of the thought process, as it were. So that's a very important part of social support, and this is something that bears repeating whenever we talk about stuff like this. Always validate people's concerns and hear them out first, and then from there see where we can go, instead of just saying, no, you're fine, right? What's next? Okay, there is a paper that did talk about this paper over here that did have an online module to help first year dental students cope with the imposter phenomenon, and they came up with like 6 tips. 2 tips were pretty, and then they asked, overall the program was pretty good in helping people manage imposter syndrome. Reports of imposterism went from like 40% in the cohort to like less than 10%, so it's a pretty significant drop. And after that, they asked people to rate how likely they were to, how often did they do each of these 6 tips. The 2 tips that were done the most are these 2 tips: scheduling activities to prevent procrastination and reduce time spent on over prepping for non-essential tasks. Okay, procrastination is, like I said before, one of those avoidant behaviors, one of those like self-sabotaging behaviors that people with imposter syndrome engage in order to like avoid the confronting fact that they're not good enough to do something. And not just procrastination, but there's also a nice subset of procrastination that a lot of us like to affectionately refer to as productive procrastination, right? Like the kind of thing where like you're about to study, but it's always when you're about to study when you suddenly feel the urge to do your laundry, to hoover your apartment, to meal prep, to um you know, like write a diary, or start journaling, or you know, doing all sorts of stuff that is technically procrastination, because it's preventing you. You're doing something else to prevent you from doing your work. At the same time, you kind of justify in your head, be like, yeah, but I had to do the laundry sometime anyway, so at least I did something. Which true, fair enough, but it doesn't get away from the fact that you're still escaping from the things that you have to do. So scheduling activities to prevent that is very useful, and it may seem, to people who have never done this before, it may seem very stupid, in that you have like a Google Calendar with like 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. lunch, 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. study, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. rest, you know, kind of thing. It seems very stupid to kind of like schedule your whole life that way. And maybe you don't have to do that whole, like, all the way like that, or maybe start like that, and then after that you kind of get the feel of what you want to do, and then schedule your work timings in which you kind of work within this time, and make sure within this time all you're doing is work. If you need to do laundry, don't do laundry as a way to escape your work. Schedule laundry time after work, or in place of work, you know, kind of thing. But as long as you keep a schedule and stick to it, you'll prevent like these kinds of procrastinating thoughts, and actually power through the work that you were too anxious to do. Scheduling also helps in scheduling, in a micro sense of scheduling work and breaks. Like if you've been to any of my co-working streams, or Waffles co-working streams, or anybody in the co-working community, we do a thing called the Pomodoro technique, where you do for example 45 minutes or 50 minutes of work, where you just buckle down and work and don't do anything, and just mute chat, even mute the stream and just work, and then 10 minutes of rest where you can catch up with chat. That kind of like micro scheduling helps to keep your productivity up, helps to prevent procrastination, because you are going to give yourself a break, and it's going to be a good break. It's going to be a good for you to unwind. But when you're focused, you're really focused. And it helps you really tackle the thing that you were too anxious to do. Reduce time spent on over prepping for non-essential tasks. It's sort of related to procrastination, but it's kind of like keeping yourself busy with like small things that don't really mean anything. Like everyone's favorite thing to do when they start, like I'm gonna make when you want to be productive and do all these things, everyone's favorite first thing to do is make a to-do list. You make the to-do list very nice, you have like stencil, and you got the nice checkbox to tick like that, and that kind of thing. You kind of doodle around to make it nice. Yeah, over prepping, it's just another form of procrastination in that sense. And it kind of like gives you the sense of because it gives like a nice flair on things, it's making yourself seem more professional by doing things other than tackling the thing, which is overall not very healthy in keeping imposterism at bay. Because like we said, we can do all these things to seem like a professional, but you will also kind of look at this and say like, yeah, I only look like a professional. I'm not actually a professional. Therefore, all of this is gonna pointless. So, yeah. Reduce time spent on this kind of thing, keep to your schedule, and then you can keep on your track. The other two things that people sort of did here and there: have conversations with your peers about imposterism thoughts. Thank you for the raid, please, and thank you. Welcome in, everyone. Have conversation with your peers about imposterism thoughts. Like we said before, social support is very important. What am I saying? Yeah, social support is very important in helping people recognize that imposterism thoughts are not just in them, but in other people as well. Helping people say like, oh, you have those thoughts, I have those thoughts too. I'm not going crazy. It's all around. We don't feel so isolated. We feel like, and then you feel like the people that you looked up to, that you thought had their shit together, that you are jealous of and you're trying to work to emulate, are also having the same concerns as you are, and then you don't feel so alone. We also talk about focusing on other community or volunteer work, which they don't really go into detail why that helps, but I'm guessing it's because you're getting in touch with other people. I don't know. Two more things that they suggested that most people in the survey reported not doing: keep a notebook/diary for your imposter thoughts, which can help, but some I think can be very confronting in that, you know, it kind of makes you look at all the bad shit stuff that goes through your head and you'll be like, what the fuck. It makes you very uncomfortable. And also, if you're the kind of person that keeps a diary, you would have done it already, and it's very hard to get people who don't diary to start diarying. Like a lot of us, I think a lot of us who don't diary have started a diary before and written 3 entries and just kind of left it to the wayside because I don't feel like it. It's not really my thing, right? So, and then there's a thing of seeking help from professional mental health services, which is always an important thing. Also, if you ever feel like you need professional help, you should seek it. Most people didn't reported not doing this. At the same time, they looked into the data and they found that the people that did do this are the people that rated the highest on the imposter syndrome scale that they were given. So, which reassured the authors in that, yeah, not a lot of people were seeking help from like mental health services, from psychiatrists, from psychologists, from therapists. But the people that were are the people that really needed it. So people will tend to do all these other strategies first to help keep the imposterism at bay. But if it gets really too bad and overwhelming, they know how to seek help. And people, yeah, so that's at least reassuring in that sense. Okay, last kind of thoughts for us to consider based on like, because we all talk about reframing our thoughts in order to combat imposterism, right? But what kind of thoughts can we reframe? So here's one thing to consider: there's nothing wrong with receiving help or being lucky. Just because we achieve something with the help of others, it doesn't diminish our personal contributions to our own success. This is a way of helping us to get around the imposter thoughts of, I'm only successful because I was lucky, I was only successful because I got here by a fluke, I was only successful because other people helped me, I didn't do anything. It is very possible for you to receive help, for you to be lucky, for someone to receive help and support and all the opportunities in the world, just for them to squander those opportunities and in the end, nothing comes out of it. The very fact that you were given help and you were lucky and you were given a shot doesn't discount the fact that through your own efforts, you were able to capitalize on this help, on this luck, and achieve what you have achieved today. And you are here, at least in part, at least in a great part, because of what you have done with the opportunity that you've been given. So, I mean, even if you think about like, I was thinking about John Wick when I was thinking about this point, right? John Wick is a character of determination and sheer fucking will, but also a character that we kind of think that a lot of guys think about, like, yeah, he's a lone guy that can do everything, right? He doesn't need help. He goes around. He exacts his own revenge by himself. He does everything by himself. If you watch John Wick closely, there are times where he's gotten help. Yeah, you can see the whole montage of him getting intel in the hotel, him buying guns, him getting a bulletproof suit from the tailor. That's help. You can see times where he got lucky in that there's a couple of times in the first movie where he almost dies. Like for example, when he almost got killed by that Perkins, the assassin in the hotel. The time he almost got when he got captured by the Russian gang leader and almost got killed, but someone else with a sniper rifle helped save him. He got lucky, he had help. But that doesn't discount the fact that after he got that help, he still managed to come out on top based on his skills and his doing. So just because you are lucky, just because you can see like, oh, you got here because you got lucky because you had help, doesn't mean that you didn't do anything to help yourself as well. So you still have agency in this. Another point we need to think about is that when we compare, it's healthy to it's useful to compare ourselves to see where we are standing, right? But it's probably better to compare ourselves to the average. We need to be healthy when we're comparing ourselves with others. We compare ourselves to the average person, to the whole group of people, and not just to a specific person. Because there's no rule that says that mischief is the standard that we need to reach. If we don't reach it, that's not good. When we compare ourselves, we need to compare ourselves to the average, like the average streamer. How are they performing? Are they doing this? Are they not doing this? What can we use? How can we use that to inform our style, our practices, what we're doing, right? But looking at one person arbitrarily because this person might be a fringe or a exceptional case, right? Setting ourselves that too high of a standard might just be harmful to us. That's the other thing. Setting too high of a standard, right? What we can manage our goals, but where is the what is the goal? And is the goal too high? If the goal is too high, what are our steps in between that can help us to that goal? Right? We've mentioned before that setting ourselves too high of a goal will cause us to always feel like we're not reaching that goal, which will cause us to feel that we're not good enough to reach that goal. Where it might be the case where the goal is just too high out of our reach, and we can get there eventually, but we need to set like tiers for ourselves with like intermediate goals. Like we'll hit this point, and we'll hit this point, and then we'll hit this point, you know, so that whenever we hit a point, we feel like we achieved something, and we know that we achieved something because of what we did, and that will help to combat the imposter feelings of never being able to achieve anything. And also, we have to manage our goals and remind ourselves who are these goals for? Are they for us? Are they for our parents? For society? Why are we doing these things? Getting comfortable with failure, like we said before, people with imposter syndrome and maladaptive perfectionism are not comfortable with failure. People with adaptive perfectionism are. They're flexible with failure. They kind of see failure as a little bump in the road, but they just kind of continue with it. So there's this is a bit of a okay. This is me being very optimistic, and I don't have a concrete way of how to do this, but this is something that I think we should work towards, and if we can help each other work towards it, we should. In getting comfortable with the fact that we're not gonna be good all the time, we're gonna have failures, and success and good performance doesn't mean that we are correct or successful 100% of the time. We are going to have moments where we fall off the wagon a bit. We're gonna have moments where we don't do our best, and when we have those moments, it's not because we're not good enough. It just happens. It may be because we weren't good enough in the moment. It doesn't necessarily mean we're not good enough in general. And even if we're not good enough in general, it doesn't mean that we're not good enough. We can't become better in the future. And it might also just be actual external factors, like it was a hot drop, that's why I lost the fight, kind of thing, right? So getting a bit more used to failures, moments that we fail. For people like to talk about celebrating failures, which is a very non-specific thing to do. Like how do you celebrate a failure? Right? There are ways. Like for example, like if you died in Apex in a funny way, clip it and show it. You know, laugh about it. And we get more confidence in experiencing failures and knowing that the failures don't define you. You can sort of roll with it, and then each failure that you encounter won't automatically cause you to feel like this is evidence, this is irrefutable evidence that you don't belong here. You just don't feel like, you start to feel less like that. Self-worth is not tied to performance, right? It's always okay to want to be better, to want to be better versions of ourselves. It's not the only thing that our self-worth is tied to. Just because we're not better, just because we want to be better, it doesn't mean that we are not good as we are right now. That makes sense, right? Yeah. Wanting to be better is not the same as we are not good enough now. There are a lot more things that inform our self-worth, our ability to love and care for each other, our friends and family, and all that. It's not just about our metrics, right? And so I like to, yeah, and not being the best is not the same as not being good enough, right? Which I like to think about this analogy, right? This is the last slide, by the way. There's a series of BuzzFeed called Worth It, which is, in my opinion, the only good thing on BuzzFeed right now, where they kind of take like 3 different foods at 3 different prices and they try it out to test how good they are. I like the episode on steak, where they had a cheap steak, medium price steak, and a very expensive steak. And apologies to any vegans out there or vegetarians, they got meals like this. So they compared this $11 steak and eggs meal with this $72 dry aged ribeye and this $306 Japanese Wagyu steak. And they talk about it and they're like, okay, this steak is the best. Obviously, the steak is the best. It's got the most care. It's the most delicious, the most flavorful. Like, they really take care of how they cultivate the meat. I mean, the cow even has a name. I don't know if you can see. The cow has a name, right? So this steak is objectively the best. Does that mean that the other steaks aren't good? No. The other steaks can be good. If you went out and you wanted a steak and you wanted to get the best steak that you could get, and let's say you had only had enough money to afford the $72 steak, are you gonna have that steak? Or are you gonna say, no, that steak is not worth it, I'm going for the $306 steak, I will not eat any other steak until I work hard enough to earn myself enough money to afford the $306 steak? Or is it even possible to go for the $72 steak and say, I enjoy this right now? Eventually, I hope to make enough money to buy the $306 steak, but for now, $72 steak, not bad. I like it. It's good. Even if you can't afford the $72 steak, the $11 steak is probably pretty good as well for its price. I mean, context, right? Context, right? This $11 steak and eggs with fried rice and toast. This is in downtown LA, where the prices are like, you know, like, this is a freaking good deal, right? There's nothing wrong with eating an $11 steak, one day saying that, you know, one day I'll get myself a $72 steak, or eating a $72 steak and one day saying, one day I'll get a $306 steak. It doesn't mean that the $11 steak is not worth eating. It doesn't mean that you are a loser for eating the $11 steak. It's, for what we have right now, it is good enough. If you want to stay eating $11 steaks for the rest of your life, that works as well, if you're entirely happy with that. And if you aspire to eat a $72 steak, yeah, eat the $11 steak right now and then work towards making enough money to eat a $72 steak. But until you reach that, $11 steak's still probably pretty good. So just because you are not able to achieve the best doesn't mean that what you have right now is not good enough as it is for the moment. It is still worth something. It is still valuable. That's the analogy. And yeah, that's the slides. Thank you for the hydrate, Nick. I appreciate it. Friesen, let me thank you properly. Friesen, thank you for the raid. How was your stream? Thank you for the shout out as well, Taku. How was Apex? We were talking about Apex a lot as a metaphor for playing well or not playing well enough and feeling like you can't play well enough. How'd it go? How'd it go? Right. That's what that's what the research has shown me, at least, and I've done my best to condense what I could find. Now is the point of time where I see a lot of people have spoken about in chat about like how they've like encountered certain similar situations. So we can have like a conversation in chat about like what you guys feel about what um your feelings are about this, right? Let me scroll up and catch up in chat for a bit. Since I deal with this a lot actually because I have no qualifications to work in my field. Yeah, and if there's no like objective standard that says you are this, and if you don't meet the standard, you are not this. It's kind of like you can work towards that being in that role, but if there's no objective standard, you may never ever feel like you're in that role. And if you don't feel like in that role, you may never feel like you can accomplish it. Right? Definitely felt a lot of that. Yeah. I mean I hope that it's helped. Hope everyone feels like they've gained something from it and they feel helped by it without feeling attacked. By the way, I appreciate you being S.H.E.E.S.H. Thank you for being here, and hope the college work is doing well. Can't be a VTuber if you ever show your face. That what annoys me. Yeah, the gatekeeping thing, right? I think that was in reference to. Yeah, I think gatekeeping comes into. Gatekeeping might be sometimes, especially when people tell me I'm hardworking. I'm like, check. Yeah, yeah, like I mean, people can see objective, especially people that look from outside in can see objectively that you're hardworking. But you might not feel it because your own personal standards for whether or not you're hardworking are based on like, do you feel like you've done enough to get to where you are right now? And if you don't feel like you've done enough, then yeah, it's been easy to miss your own hard work. Indeed it is. Indeed it is. Yeah. So it's because we look at our own hard work and other people's hard work from different perspectives. Yeah. So that's where the social support comes in as well, where a lot of what keeps us in imposter syndrome is all about like the maladjusted self-perception of things and how that keeps us in a cyclical relationship of like, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough. It helps to talk to people, especially people that you are close to, people that you trust, to tell you their perspective, and then that will give you like a place to like think about how like their perspective of me is so different from my opinion about myself. What's the disconnect? What am I missing? Right? Are people just buttering me up, or are they seeing something that I'm not? So that alongside like sharing feelings of imposterism, so that people can help to recognize that we're all being very we all have the same feelings. That helps, but also the feelings of the act of like sharing of like kind of like bouncing ideas off each other and echoing ideas, right? And like, you know, reaffirming people. What you're saying earlier about feeling like you somehow got something by mistake and you're going to be found out, that's me with my uni stuff. Like compared to everyone else, I'm the least qualified to be there. Yeah, it's this is why people dislike the one guy who's like, yeah, I didn't study for the test, and then they get an A, right? Because it just like opens up another avenue for like trying to compare yourself to others. And there's a lot of comparison and like social comparison in university settings as well. Especially since like, because people who go into like senior high and university were in the process, people are in the process of figuring out who they are as people. And the easiest way to define yourself is to define yourself by what you're good at, what your successes are. So people are more likely to highlight their successes and say like, yeah, I'm good at this, I'm good at that. And you kind of look around and you see like everyone's good at something. What am I good at? I'm not even if I'm good at this, I'm not as good as some other people are at that. Which goes into the whole thing of, yeah, one, you see people for the thing that they're best at, and that's it, and not anything else, and then that kind of makes you feel like everyone's good at something and you're not. And also it goes into the argument of how like, yeah, I'm good at this, but not as good as John is with it, right? So does it necessarily mean that if you're not as good as John, that you're not worth anything? That what your ability is isn't worth something? Because if you are, if you can get like, if you can get an A minus, if you can get constant A minuses in a particular subject, you're like, yeah, but that guy gets A's. Like, so is suddenly your A minus suddenly not an achievement anymore? It still is. That's why, like, that's why I wanted to end on that note of like, just because you're not the best doesn't mean you're not good enough. You can still be good where you are, and then still work to improve. It's a bit of a double think, to be honest. Which is why a lot of us have trouble with it, in that you it's a real dual thought of like, I'm good where I am right now, and also I could be better, right? Because it makes sense in our head when we think about I could be better means I'm not good now, right? So it's a bit of like a mind fuck to think about it that way. But there's ways to appreciate what's good about what we have right now, and that this is good. We did good now, and then we'll continue to do even better. Growing up, if I got anything other than A, I get grounded for a very amount of time based on how many not A's I got. Yeah. I can empathize to a certain degree. Certainly the whole thing of like B's were not good enough. You know, to the point that I kind of ingrained it to myself when I got a B in college, even though my parents really never really cared that much about my college grades, as long as I was doing well enough. I was like, nah, B is not good enough. It's one thing to get those standards from someone else all your life, but you know that it's become a big thing when you've gone full circle and you internalize those standards into yourself. So now you're holding yourself accountable to like how, like, if you get anything other than an A, you're not good enough. Like, you're telling yourself that, you know. That's where how imposter syndrome did. Stuff like that factors into the parasocial relationships too, I feel. Wait, which is the social media part, right? We're talking about social media. Yeah, the peer thing, right? I think it was the peer thing that we're talking about. By the way, if there's anything that you guys mentioned in chat that I missed, that I couldn't address while I was doing the talk, please feel free to spit it out to re-emphasize it again. I was a gifted kid, but then because I wasn't getting A in every subject, I got punished, so like I gave up because it wasn't good enough. Yeah, that's pretty much like what we've spoken about. I love the hey mom look on TV. Literally how my parents were with me and my sister, although not my sister being the one achieving anything and I'm not. You see, that's the other thing. Like, if you think you're not achieving something, right? Like, are you not achieving anything at all? Or you're not achieving the things that you thought you would achieve? Which also then goes on to discount the things that you have achieved, you just don't care about them. You know? And also, it's possible to achieve, maybe you haven't achieved the things that we want to achieve, but we've achieved smaller goals that get us there eventually. That's the thing. Or the things my parents expected me to achieve. Yeah. And parental expectations are a tricky thing, to be honest. Hang on, give me 1 sec. Let me full screen this, then I can Alright, so people know we're still talking about imposter syndrome. Yeah. Okay, so parental expectations, right? They're a bit of a mixed bag because our parents are the people that give us some sort of direction in our life. We know how to do things, how to frame our lives in that sense. At the same time, it's very easy and very common as well for parents to uh, put their to use their life experiences in order to inform what our life experiences should be, even though our lives might be very different from them. They're by definition different because we live in different time periods and different had different goals, right? It could be a thing where like a parent it was unable to achieve something in their life, therefore like they kind of push their kids in order to do the thing, or they feel like, yeah, I wish I was a doctor. If I was a doctor, my life would be so much easier. So I want my kids to be doctors because I want their life to be easier, and they come from a good place when they do that. um it just overall is not like the most healthy because it puts an external expectation on people that they don't feel intrinsically that they want to achieve. Two jobs by 16, yes father, but it's not that simple. Yeah, it's different, right? Having um yeah, it's tricky. It's a different time. What is two jobs back in the day might be like a paper route and like working at a diner for a bit. Who does paper routes now? Um, and working in a diner is a lot different now than it was 50 years ago. Uh, People are a lot meaner now. Customer is always right kind of mentality sets in a lot. So yeah, it's like I could do this, why can't you kind of thing, right? It's not the most helpful. Um, yeah, and those external expectations, they really eat at us because also like it's almost like the expectations have been arbitrarily given to us. Like our parents know, the parent knows why they're giving us the expectation, right? Because they like they feel like this is a good job for you. They feel like they wanted to do it before but they couldn't, therefore you should do it now. They give it to you. So that expectation, that goal has been to them. It doesn't have the same meaning for us, for the child who has the expectation laden onto them. Like why do you want to be a doctor? It's like, oh, my parents wanted me to be a doctor. Oh, my parents were both doctors. It is the family tradition. It's not the same. It's not the same because like you don't feel it. You don't feel that intrinsic drive, right? And because you don't feel you want this as much as you should, that also actually kind of adds into the imposter syndrome as well, right? Like not having a good enough reason to be here, to be where you are, can add into imposter syndrome as well. Like fuck, I remember like I'm part of a scholarship program, right, for my PhD, and it's a very competitive scholarship program. It pays quite a bit. In fact, my other friends heard the kind of scholarship that I got, they got kind of annoyed. Okay, anyways, like the first time I went to one of those meet and greets for this scholarship program, you get all the students in like the same program to come in and kind of mingle with each other. And the school's perspective is that it's a nice thing to do, like get people to like meet, mingle, you know, get all these like geniuses together and do the kind of thing. But whenever it's like you get grad students kind of introducing ourselves to each other, it becomes a giant showboating thing where people are just like, I do this, I do that. You know, everyone introducing themselves, their name and their project. They don't talk about like how old they are, where they come from, what their hobbies are, what their passions are, what they like or dislike. It's just like what their name and their project, right? And also the third thing, why they got into the project. So you hear about the first guy I met was like he seemed like he seemed like a nice enough guy, and he is a nice enough guy. He's a very nice guy. I spoke to him multiple times. He's a very nice guy, very humble, very down to earth. He's very successful in his work. He won 3-minute thesis. If anybody is in the UNSW PhD program, they probably know this guy. Uh, I spoke to him and he said that his project was uh he was working on nanomachines as a means for administering medication to cancer patients, to pancreatic cancer patients, using nanomachines. And his reason for doing this is because he had a parent that died from pancreatic cancer a couple years ago, and since then he has been motivated to research the project ever since, right? To improve the lives of pancreatic cancer patients everywhere. And I'm like, holy fuck, that's a X Factor backstory right there, right? And I talk to other people and they have like, oh, I'm in this line because I'm 40 years old. I've been working in this line of research for like over 20 years, and I feel like it's time for me to do something for myself, kind of thing. Like, everyone has this like really cool backstory as to like why they're there and how they've earned this position to be there. And my response when people ask me why I'm there, I said basically I want to do a PhD so that I can apply for grants, but I didn't want to pay for the PhD, so I applied for the scholarship. That was my reason. And it's not far from the truth. It's a bit disingenuous, it's a bit jokey, but it's not far from the truth. I don't have an X Factor backstory for wanting to do research in dementia. I don't have any relatives that have dementia or have died from dementia. Um, I don't. I don't have any. My life has not been rocked by the disease that I now work to cure. So even though I kind of just fell into this job because like I tell my friends all this story all the time. Before I got a job in neuroscience doing research, I almost went into marketing because I like marketing. I like doing like advertising campaigns, crisis management, that kind of stuff. Plus, I have a bachelor's in communications as well. It's only because in my last semester, a friend said, "Okay, hey, I got a job at a neuroscience lab that I interned in. Do you want to apply for it? I heard you want a job." I'm like, "Yeah, sure, I'll apply for a job." I thought I'll do it like an interim thing while I figure out like what I want to do in marketing. So I thought I'd sign up for like 6 months as a part-time thing. I am saying that job for 5 years, and that's become my career, doing research in dementia and aging. Um, and that's how I sort of fell into the gig, and then I wanted to continue because I want to do more projects because man, and I need a PhD for that. And then like I saw this program that uh, and then this professor taught the program. I'm like, okay, I like the professor. I followed their work before. I'll go apply to that, see if I can get to a PhD. I literally told him, like, I pitched him one project, and he's like, oh, we have someone doing that already. I'm like, okay, what else you got? Give me something, I'll do it, right? And he pitched me this project. It's a good reason though. You found a love for it. Yeah, I did find a love for it. It taken me a while to discover and to realize that finding an eventual love for my project is a good reason to be in my project, to do what I do. But for a very long time, I thought that me just kind of falling into this line of work, as opposed to having this sort of an X factor reason as to why I'm doing dementia research, meant that my motivations were not as strong as other people's were, and therefore therefore there were a lot of things, therefore like I didn't want this as much as other people did, you know what I mean. That's where I'm coming from. So yeah, so it's very, I forget what I was talking about this, but basically it's very easy to look at other people and their motivations to do this, and if you don't have the same strong motivations in you, especially if your parents give you this goal to do and you don't feel strongly about it as they do, then it's very easy to be like, I don't know why I want to do this, I'm just doing this because I've been told I should do this, and then you feel like, should I really be here? Discount the fact that being a doctor in and of itself is a good thing, but there are a lot of people who are like, I don't know why I want to be a doctor. Um, is there anything in chat that I missed that I haven't addressed? Because I saw a lot of like points being brought up, um, interspersed with a lot of people saying, "Yeah, I feel this too," sweating buckets. Uh, yeah. So this is my experience with imposter syndrome. I think a lot of my issues stem with imposter syndrome with Twitch stuff versus my parents' thoughts for sure. Okay, what is it about? What do you mean Twitch stuff versus my parents' thoughts? What do you mean by that? Are you saying that your parents don't approve of Twitch, or if you don't mind sharing? Oh, in fact, if anybody feels like they wanna talk more about it, get on a call, that works as well. Or we can talk in chat. Actually, you know what? Hold that thought. I need to use the bathroom. It's been a hot minute. Enjoy the tunes. I'll be right back. I got a PBRB. Alright, cool. I'm conflicted. Should I play ads so they don't run later on? I don't like to play ads during this kind of stuff. Well, okay, I won't play ads. We're back. Hey Bear, good to see you. Welcome back to the show. Working and lucky baby. Thank you for the luck, Bear. Yeah. Actually, like we were talking, we're doing the mental health, just chatting stuff, and we were talking about the imposter syndrome. I think you might have echoed to me at least one point of time that this was a good thing to talk about. So thank you for reaffirming that for me, Bear. Have a good luck. I hope you are doing well. You guys mind if I have my olive and cheese roll? Otago says I feel selfish for wanting to accomplish more. Could you elaborate? Do you think you could elaborate on that? What what is it about accomplishing more makes you feel selfish? Do you feel like accomplishing more means that you take away from someone else? Or is it like do you feel greedy and like you really have so much? Why would you want more? I feel like any success I make takes something away from the people I care about. Do you feel like working towards that success comes at the expense of your personal relationships? I'm back. Welcome back, Nick. But this is an interesting thought process that seeing if I can wrap my head around because it seems counterintuitive or unrelated, but I'm sure there's some sort of like link in the back. Earlier, Nick says I don't really care about how my parents expected me to be anymore. Like it's not a big deal. That makes sense. Yeah. I guess yeah, it makes sense. If you um able to, in a sense, step away from those externally applied um goals or expectations of you and have learn to set your own expectations. Is that what you mean? We kind of raised to just shut up and do as I'm told, so any step out of that feels selfish. Right. I see. I see. But you can see how that is an external expectation, right? You can see how that is like you being told from a very for a long time from a young age that this is what you're expected of. If you do anything outside of what you're expected of, that you don't deserve to do this, right? Because of this arbitrarily outside external source of expectation that's been put on you. So you can see how those feelings of like not deserving something come into play here, right? I just get a lot of those feelings with Twitch now, like I don't deserve what I've achieved so far, but also feeling I can be doing way better. That's that is a valid and fair thing to feel. I think a lot of people feel that way as well. Like, you ever get that feeling when someone follows you and is so keen, or someone subs? Like, the coolest thing I see in my Twitch feed that I hardly see, but it's cool and I like it, but also I think why? It's when someone subscribes at tier 1 for the first month. You know, you see it, so and so subscribes to tier 1. I'm like, oh, okay, thank you. Uh, I appreciate gift subs, I appreciate resubs, but I can understand why people would give sub and resub. These are people that are already here quite a bit, and they want to support and they love the content and all that stuff. When someone who comes in new subs, they're like, wow, okay, thank you. Why? But thank you. Like I kind of like feel like I don't deserve it in that sense, because it's like you don't know me, why are you subbing to me, kind of thing. But you can see how that's like a messed up thing to feel, right? Because yeah, but it's like it's kind of messed up, I think. I just get a lot of these feelings with Twitch now. Wait, so I read it already. Yeah, so this there's always this dual thought of like, yeah, we've done a lot that we can right now, but there's always more to do. We'll get to that in a moment. Hang on. I've never once had any parent tell me that they're proud of me. The things I'm proud of don't mean anything to them, so I stopped talking about the things I love, and when I do start talking about stuff, I kind of shut off and apologize. I know it's no worries to talk to. It's all good. This is what these moments are for. So, so this is where like a lot of the externally defined or externally laden expectations come in, right? Like it's two pronged. These expectations that don't mean as much to us get given to us, and we don't have internal motivation to handle it or work towards it. At the same time, there are things that mean a lot to us, but when we seek validation from the people that we need validation from, they ignore the things that mean a lot to us, and that denies us our sense of self, right? Because if this is something that means a lot to you, then if it doesn't mean that the people that you doesn't mean anything to the people that you care about, that's basically them rejecting you as a person. Or at least you can feel like that. And you can see like you stop talking about the things that you love, and when you do start talking about it, you trail off and apologize. That's that self-censorship right there. When you feel like your thoughts are not worthy of being expressed because they're not as valid as the thoughts of other people around you. Specifically, the thoughts of like what other people say or what other people expect of you to achieve. So this is like the step in recognition. Like that's why I said like the first thing in every mental health thing is to recognize when when something's happening to us, right? And this is the good. I think this is a good first step in recognizing that uh, the imposterism is causing us to self-censor about what makes us happy, what makes us passionate, because we don't feel like we deserve to be passionate and happy about these things when there are other expectations of us that other people that mean more give to us. Why bother about the things that we love where the people we need to impress give us other things to bother about? Like, why are you wasting your time? You could be you could be becoming a doctor or an engineer. Why are you wasting your time playing video games? What is the 4K20 bomb? I have no idea what you're talking about. Stop wasting your life playing video games and go and study, you know, kind of thing. I'm not saying that video games are better than studying. No. So yeah. Don't worry about this being heavy. I think it's all right. Also, we're kind of like discussing our feelings mutually. Again, exclamation mark, not medical advice. So yeah, so as long as we are this is part of the social support thing we're talking about, right? Like, because there are a lot of things that we've internalized as normal that might not be normal, that we tell other people, they'll be like, yeah, that's not normal, that shouldn't be the case. Even it doesn't have to be that way. In the act of telling someone, of voicing it out, of typing it out, you kind of look back at it and be like, yeah, that's actually kind of fucked up. Like, you don't notice it when it's in your head because you've internalized it, and we've been conditioned to think that this is normal because we lived with this thought our whole life. This is another thing that social support does, talking about our feelings to other people. It helps us realize, or helps people tell us from an objective point of view, when our thought processes are not normal or not helpful. So it's good that we're talking about this kind of stuff. How we get around the topic, how we get around the feeling of like not feeling like our things that we're proud of are worth anything. It's not as easy as like, okay, now we're free, we can do whatever we want. It's not as easy. I think we should at least reconcile in our heads to a certain degree that the external goals that have been given to us, external expectations that have been given to us are external. Which was that easy? Yeah, I do too. Okay, we can start by thinking about how these external goals and expectations are external to us, in that there is a legitimate reason why we don't feel internally, intrinsically passionate about these goals. It's because we didn't come up with them. We were driven by something in our life or our personality to pursue this. That doesn't mean that these goals are not valid, or that the person giving us these goals are doing this to harm us. Opposite, right? It means our parents give us these goals because they care about us, they want us to have our lives on track. But as long as we recognize that these are our parents' goals for us, and they can be our goals, or part of our goals, or none of our goals. Right? And these can exist separately alongside our personal goals that we create for ourselves. And the reason why those external goals seem so strong to us, seem more important, or may seem more important to us than our personal goals, not just because they're telling us, but also because they're telling us. Because these expectations come from people that we respect, whose approval that we seek. right? To the point that we seek their approval more than we seek our own approval for ourselves. That's why we're more inclined to listen to them than to listen to our own goals. So we should start to, when it comes to the remind ourselves that we are, when it comes to dealing with what our goals and aspirations are, that should be, we are as much as part of the conversation as other people. In fact, even more so now. And that we have a right to at least voice our goals, our passions, and then make something of it, if it makes sense. Um, so we should also recognize that these external goals that we get are external goals primarily because, I mean, I know what was I trying to say? Um, these external goals mean something to other people and not that much to us. Damn it, I forgot what I was trying to say. But in any case, it doesn't necessarily mean that the people that we, oh wait, yes, there's a big part of why we think, why we're so inclined to have to listen to these external goals is because they come from a place of authority. They come from people that we want to seek approval from. It's not necessarily that if your parents want you to become a doctor but you want to be an artist, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's just because the doctor is a better profession than an artist. There are people who will argue that from a logical point of view, yeah, that makes sense. At the same time, we live in a society where where a doctor and an artist both have their positions in that society, and neither job is useless. There's an element. The reason why we think our parents go for us being a doctor over our goal of being an artist, so the doctor goal is so much more important. It's not just because doctors are important, also because they come from people that we wish to impress. More so that we want to impress ourselves because of the whole imposterism thing. You can see it's a kind of chicken egg thing, right? So there's a big peripheral argument, a side argument to why we wanna like listen so badly to these goals, or why we feel like we have to, and kind of leave our goals to the wayside because we're being told by people of authority that this is a good goal to have, and therefore we should go for it. If we don't feel for it, that's our fault. Why would you not want to be a doctor? Don't you want to help people? Don't you want to make money? What's wrong with you? You know? Yeah, it's a rough one indeed. It is, and it gets easier to deal with as we grow older, as we grow a bit more independent as people, and in a sense, able to step a bit away from all of these learned expectations and try to find ourselves as people, right? I feel I wouldn't know how to address this for people who are still very much under the care of their parents, especially if their parents are very overbearing. I can't tell a 15-year-old kid to not listen to their parents and just do whatever they want, because there's a certain part of our like thought process when we're immature, or not much, or not as mature, that we just kind of want to do whatever, right? And there's some part of us that like knows that our parents were wanting the best for us. Probably is good structure, and it also happens like, oh, like the rebound can also happen when, if you live so long under these learned expectations from an authority figure, the moment you escape, find some out, you go to college or become an adult or something, you gotta swing the other way. You be like, I don't want nothing to do with being an adult. I just want to do whatever I want. You just can't go crazy, right? Crazy in the sense of like going like ham and being like kind of doing whatever you want, not having focus or whatnot, and not having a solid goal. In that sense, it's just as bad as not having a goal that you don't feel for. You know? Yeah. These learned experiences, man, these learned expectations, they can very easily affect us. It's another thing that we are learning, that that's what we're trying to bring the conversation of imposter syndrome away from it being just a personal perception issue to an issue with our culture, with our institutions, with our environments, what kind of work culture we're working in, what kind of like home culture we're being brought up in, what people expect of us, how those thoughts shape the way we think about ourselves, you know? It's, I realize I'm talking a lot on hypotheticals and conjecture right now. A lot of this is very easier said than done. Like I said, like there's no like documented, published way to cure imposter syndrome, if it is something to be cured. Anyways, it's somewhere within this rambling and wondering, we might eventually stumble upon something that works for us. And that's another thing, like someone will come up with a solution that works for them. It doesn't mean that it will necessarily work for us, right? Because it all depends. If there was one way to fix this, we'd all do it. Case in point, the 6 reasons that we had for dealing with imposter syndrome. Not 6 reasons, 6 tips, right? They're all good tips, but they're not all the same. Some tips work for some tips work better for some, not for others. I try to listen to praise from people, but I don't feel like I ever deserve it. Yeah, it's I think, and honestly speaking, a lot of times when people praise us is in response to something that we say about ourselves negatively, or something that happens to us that feels negative. And part of the reason why we don't feel like we deserve people's praise is because, like the thing I said, right, about validating people's thoughts. Yeah, validating each other's doubts and fears. One of the reasons why we don't feel like we deserve praise is because a lot of time praise comes in response to when we feel bad about ourselves or something that fucked up, and people just do the game, say like, no, you're great, but you just saw evidence to the contrary, so yeah, I don't deserve it. Huh? And it's a very tricky line to ride when someone says that they're not good at something. It's a very tricky line to write and say that, yes, I agree, I hear you, I hear your concerns, I see you, and I can see where you're coming from, that wasn't a good thing. Same time, you are more than this, and you have more to give in that sense. Kelly, hi, good to see you. Welcome back to the stream. How you doing? We're just chatting for a bit. Talking about imposter syndrome. Hope you're having a good day. I should try to say something like you can improve with time and practice. Yeah, that works as well. Or that everyone can have bad days. Yeah. Um. See that kind of stuff can work as well. It's not doesn't work in all cases. There can be there can be times where you tell someone, yeah, everyone has a bad day, and they're like, yeah, no shit, right? But I was like, no worries, Kaylee, it's all good. It's all good. You come in whenever you can. Thank you for being here. Beat the Poke League up. Congratulations. I'm good. I'm glad you did. That was quick. You were just at 6 badges yesterday, and now you're done. Boom. Solid work. Yeah. It's um. See, depending on who you're talking to, when you say something like you can improve with time and practice, that might be tacit agreement that like, oh, so you are saying I suck, right? So it's a there's a way to choose, like, do you agree that yeah, you're not good and you can be better, or do you agree that yeah, that wasn't good, it was a one-off or a fluke? What kind of strategy do you use with whoever? It's not always clear. Trying to think of other examples of when people give us praise that we don't deserve. Well, I think the main reason why we feel like we don't deserve praise is because the praise is one thing, one statement that goes in contrast to all the other 99 negative statements that go through our head about how we feel about ourselves. So of course, like, if and the thoughts we have about ourselves can be very pervasive and continuous, to the point that it's going to sound even more stronger and louder than the one praise that we get, even though it's both 1v1. When you were having a bad day with Apex, I just kind of said you're allowed to have bad days. It's okay to have a bad day. Yeah. Yeah. Indeed, you are right. Apex is just like that. You kind of have bad days. I was talking to Ross about this the other day, about how, like, I'm mauled when I'm in bronze rank, not because I'm losing RP, because you can't lose RP in bronze rank, but because I'm in a bronze fight with other bronze players and I'm still losing. And I've always envisioned myself to be like a silver, if not at least a gold player, but I'm losing bronze fight. Heck. And then he's reminding me that yeah, it's not always bronze fights, because just because they're bronze doesn't mean they're actually bronze. The people that don't take rank seriously, who are very good, who don't take rank seriously, there are people who are much higher ranks who haven't played rank for a very long time, therefore they drop the bronze, that's why they're there. Sometimes you are just not teamed up with teammates that were able to help you in the moment. That was just a bad drop. There are a lot of reasons as to why something might not work out. Yeah, it's okay to have a bad day. See, the reason why, at least for myself, I get annoyed with my abilities in Apex is primarily because I guess it's my way of combating the imposter syndrome in a albeit in a swing in the other direction way that it's not as healthy, in that I want to take agency and control over my fights. In that, if I'm losing, it's because I did something to fuck it up, and I'm losing because of that. What could I do? What could I have done in that fight to make it better? You know, if I can do something. I have the power to change the course of the kind of engagements I get in Apex, so that next time I drop, I can get better. You know? So, There's a lot of externalizing in imposter syndrome, where people will be like, um, kind of goes both ways actually. Either people think they're not good enough, or people say that, yeah, I don't wanna, I don't wanna, uh, I lost because of those external factors, in order to avoid the fact that they, um, in order to avoid the confrontation that they feel they may not be good enough. Thank you for redeeming that, Katie. I'll take note of that for next time we play, Pokemon. So, blaming yourself and saying that you're not good is not helpful. Blaming external factors entirely is not helpful, because that's also more likely than not a defense mechanism, a way to run away. When the time of stuff happens to me, I try to fix it on my time machine, go back in the past to try to fix it. You talk about Pokemon, or we'll talk about like life in general. Um, so um, there's a middle ground in your mind. Go back into your mind and try to replay the situation. I mean, as long as you use that to learn how you can do better in the future, yeah. That doesn't necessarily, it shouldn't necessarily be a way to. Last time I thought we were talking about Pokemon. It kind of jumped. We're not talking about Pokemon anymore. But yeah. Yeah. If things happen, it's good to like think back about what happened in the past and think about how we could do better. As long as it's like we use it as a learning point for the future and not use it as like a mechanism of like, yeah, I could have gotten better. That's how I could have gotten better. Oh, I feel good about thinking that, and then that's it. If we never learn anything from it, then there's no point. It's just a emotional coping mechanism that doesn't seek to change or improve anything. When it comes to imposter syndrome, people tend to see they're not good enough, which is not good. People tend to run away from feeling that they're not good enough by blaming or like assigning fault to self handicaps, like not trying hard enough, which is also not good. The middle ground is to probably think about situations for the intricacies that they are, which will take a lot of effort, and it does take a lot of practice to see that every situation is going to be a combination of internal and external factors. And the internal factors, we were not the most successful in the moment. That's all right. Also, yeah. Okay. In the same way that we can receive help in a situation, and yet we still have the agency to make good of it. So just because we receive help doesn't mean that when we succeed it's because of the help and not because of our abilities. It is because of our abilities. In that same way, when something goes bad, it's also usually a combination of those factors as well. We didn't do something well, combined with something in the environment fucked up, combined with bad luck and all that stuff. So we have the ability to we should work on recognizing this, primarily to remind ourselves that when something goes wrong, it's not just because we fucked up. Hi, I'm Han. Good to see you. Welcome back to the stream. It's not just because we fucked up. It might be because we fucked up a little bit, but also probably other factors as well, right? So we're not solely responsible for every time something goes wrong. Therefore, we don't deserve to be here. we did do something that kind of like helped it along a little bit. We did do something to mess things up. But if it weren't for the other things that went wrong, it probably wouldn't be as bad. Things got to the way they were, not just because we messed up, but because other things went out of our control, went bad. So the thing that we messed up, we have the power to improve, while at the same time we remind ourselves that this is not why we failed. We we can be better, but the reason, okay, we can be better. At the same time, what we are right now is not the reason why we failed. I think that's starting to get towards that little sweet spot of that double of that supposed double standard of being better, but also wanting to be better, but also being happy with what we are. Huh? How are you, Aman? I hope you're well. I hope I'm making sense with all this. It's like been I've been live for like 3 hours. Actually, doesn't count. Like first 15 minutes were countdown. Okay, good. Good. How long was my talk? Was it like a 1.5 hours? I think. Yeah, don't worry. Thank you, Otaku. I appreciate it. Mm. Thank you, Nick. I appreciate it as well. I think for subsequent sessions, I should put like a. I have more I wanted to add, but brain's going brr. Fair enough. Um, this can be a bit of a topic that we can discuss later on. You know what? Maybe. Welcome back, Kelly. Maybe I should do like an FAQ thing, a Q&A thing. People watch this and digest this. They may have questions later on, especially when our brains are not going blur. Then they want to ask. Maybe after they ask it, they put it in like Discord or something. I will do maybe a follow-up stream to talk about it. I think that might be a good way to get a discussion going without there being a need for everyone to be like, get your questions ready now. Yeah. I got some carbs in me. Olive and cheese, that was not bad. Ah. Wait, what time is it for you guys? It is 11 p.m. Eastern. 11 p.m. Oh, Nick, it's past your bedtime, isn't it? I kind of like covered the material. I love how you sit down, rubbing my eyes. Okay, alright. But I covered my material. We kind of had a chat for a bit about it. I'm not sure what else we can talk about. Or we might do like we do the open mic thing. Not open mic, but thing of let's we've spoken quite a bit of imposter syndrome, but we can just kind of open the floor to stuff in general. If anybody wants to miscellaneous, also stuff I want to say but I don't want to say on stream because reasons. Fair enough. If you want, we can like DM privately about it. That's always doable. Oh, maybe there should be a way for us to post anonymous questions. Yeah. And if we get enough response for questions, even a non-comment, yeah, we get enough like comments or questions that we can. Yeah, therapist too much to unpack. Fair enough. Um, I'm glad that you. I mean, I'm glad that you recognize that the need to unpack stuff requires a bit more of a finer, like a finer control on things. You know, at least something that might not be the most appropriate for a Twitch stream. I mean, it still can be good that we are discussing stuff, but if you need to like sort things out, yeah, professional assistance might be professional support might be better. Like a follow up, or if someone can't watch but want to say something to contribute, and they can, you can talk about it and they can watch the VOD, and that makes sense. Yeah. So either post the VOD for people to watch, or okay, that, and also see how much I can do to condense the top part of the video into like an abridged video. Because like if I cut out all the ums and ahs, if I'll be able to get it down to like minute 20, an hour 20. Rambling as well. So yeah, that people can watch that. They can like provide their comments, provide their feedback, provide their experiences, anonymous or not, and then we can even like discuss it on a later day. If it's anonymous, then people can feel free to like upload their concerns and talk about it without having to have it tied to them. In case they want to talk about sensitive stuff, of course, again, if it's too tricky, it might not be appropriate for me to discuss it, and then I'll just like acknowledge it and state that, you know what, a more professional hand should take a swing at this. The way for you to filter stuff too, yeah. The only painful thing is that I gotta watch the VOD. I'm like, I don't like watching my VODs. I know you should, as a creator, you should watch your own VODs, but I don't like the way I sound. I think everyone has that, right? You don't like the way you sound. I love watching my VODs. I'm so dumb. You see, I love that you love that, honestly, because like I hate the way that sounds though. Yeah, but fair enough. That's common, right? There's a biological reason why we don't like the way we sound, because we sound different to ourselves as we speak than when we hear ourselves in a recording. You know that, right? So, but I like that you like watching your own moments, because your moments can be very funny, and you know how to like make those funny moments come out. You sell it with the way you laugh, so it's good that you can watch your own VODs. Yeah. But yeah, in case anyone never heard of this thing about like you sounding different to yourself than you do to others, in general, I'm sure you noticed this before, that getting more used to my voice. Yeah, the more you hear yourself, the more you get used to it. Yeah, I suppose it's familiarity as well. It kind of factors into it. Okay, so what I was gonna say is, like, the reason why oh, your voice, yeah, I think a lot of people like Otaku's voice. I've seen people, I see first time chatters come into chat talking about how they like your voice, which is cool, but also I keep an eye on you. But yeah, anyways, what I was gonna say, I'm sure if anyone's ever heard a recording of their own voice, they probably would have noticed that they sound weird in a recording, more high pitched, more tinny. In that sense, it's primarily because when we hear ourselves talk in our own head, our voice is resonated by basically our head. Skull is a very big conductor of sound, especially the lower timbers, and also like the inner ear structures and all that. Very deeply resonate deeper sounds. In fact, your jaw is kind of like a tuning fork in that sense. So When you hear yourself, you hear a lot of the bassiness that's kind of echoed by your head, by your skull. So you sound deeper to yourself than you do when your voice is my head pretty empty, so it probably really echoes in there. Nick, please. But yeah. So when you hear when you talk or talking to a recording, you don't have that like, kind of like bassy amplification that your head gives, so that's why you don't have that when you hear yourself. It's a lot higher and like that kind of thing. And it's not that your voice is not good at that frequency. It's more like you're not used to it. Because when you hear yourself talk, you always hear yourself talk within yourself. Like right now, when you talk, you hear within yourself. And you're used to that, but you only ever rarely hear yourself a recording. It's the same reason why you like how you look in the mirror, but you think a photo of yourself looks a bit weird because you're used to seeing yourself in the mirror as a mirror image. But when you see yourself a photo of yourself, you see yourself the right way around. In other words, from what you're used to seeing in the mirror all the time. So that's why you're like, what the fuck? That's not me. But when you flip it to a mirror image, you're like, oh yeah, that is me. So it's all about familiarity, which, like Otaku says, can be countered with like the more you listen to yourself, your voice, the more you see yourself in a video, the more used to like you are to seeing yourself in that angle at that pitch. So you're like, yeah, that becomes like normalized to you. Yeah, Nick has a very nice voice as well. It's the best laugh. It's so hearty. But like, there are a lot of clips where you don't even remember what was said. But the funny thing is that Nick was just set off and just cackling the whole way, and that's what gets everyone laughing. Yes, and the cry indeed. Yeah, I just realized you can see my laundry hanging out. Ain't no heat. Cover it up. Love Nick's evil cackle like in DVD that time. Yeah, it's Nick's evil cackle in Dead by Daylight is at least a certain level of perceived evilness and funny. Like Nick's evil laugh is because funny, which is very different from Ender's evil laugh, which is more evil. Like she's enjoying this a bit too much. Right? When you're playing kill. Yeah, yeah. You are you ever laughing when you're survivor? And that's evil laugh scares me. Yeah, the giggles. But though she's so cute, yeah. And that's the best. I envy a lot of people and their wicked sense of humor, which yeah. But yeah, so all these compliments happening in chat. Okay. A lot of times we feel that we don't deserve a wicked sense of humor. What do you mean? Okay, fine. And I sometimes feel like a bit more witty when I'm in chat because I have time to think about like maybe fucking well, I have time to think about like what to write and like what to say. I'm not as funny off the cuff. But I also realized recently when I thought about this is that I think I'm funny when I'm in chat because I say something in chat and there's an immediate response from you in stream or from someone else in stream or from everyone else in chat. The more of like an immediate response because I can see when the thing comes up and you read it and then start to lose your shit, as opposed to like what I try to be funny here, say a thing and there's like a couple of seconds delay before people react, if at all, in chat. So I'm like, oh, so in those couple of seconds after I say a thing and no one says anything, I'm like, ah, fuck, that didn't land, right? See, that's perception thing right there. Baby's butthole. Oh god, I'm so embarrassed that yeah, let's not. That was see that clip is funny mainly because of how Nick reacted to it. I'm still kind of embarrassed that Court had to delete that comment because it's like, yeah, nah. Please don't do that. But I know it's all good for the most part. So yeah. But it's like that's the kind of joke that you can't make every day without laughing so often for a random comment. I appreciate it, Otaku. Dying just earlier over your CPR comments on my drunk stream. What did I say? Me? My CPR comments? What did I say about CPR? Is that in your server? Using Google CPR on me if I choke on peanut butter. You're like, that doesn't work. Yeah. I was like, what? CPR on peanut butter? Okay, yeah. Okay, I remember now. Yeah, it doesn't work. There you go. Someone breaks the ankle and this begins chest compression. Okay, I remember that. It's like, sir, do you need help? Do you have a headache? Oh no! 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that was funny. Imagine like I'm feeling have someone feeling imposter syndrome and Nick's like call 911. Stay alive. I'm trying to give CPR to myself, which is like, is that possible? No, it's not possible. Wait, of course it's not possible. Okay, I'm trying to like I entertain the idea in my head. Is it possible to give yourself CPR? Of course not. If you need CPR, you're not. God damn it, I'm tired. What is with the monster in tea? Bro, is that possible? I'm out of it. I'm tired. No, I was thinking about the Heimlich maneuver. That's what I was thinking about. Is it possible to give yourself the Heimlich maneuver? Because I read somewhere that it is, right? You just kind of like put your thing here.
Hello there.
General Kenobi! Hi, Kaylee. Kind of like put your hand where you're supposed to be and kind of like drive yourself into a wall or something like that. Not medical advice, don't take my word for it. Please don't try that on your own. Sound alerts are back, they just sound me. Yeah, we're out of presentation mode so we can do sound alerts. Thank God Prison never tried to. Prison's been loving the sound alerts. Startled someone. Guillaume's doesn't count because Guillaume's gets startled by everything. But yeah. There are many a clip where the main thing is like Guillaume's getting startled by something. Good stuff. We love it. Yeah. So we established that imposter syndrome. Fucking shit. I was not expecting it. Actually, got you. I didn't think. No, I wasn't expecting it. Yeah, I wasn't expecting it. I was just like trying to think about like what to say next, and it just suddenly kind of like popped up. Appreciate that, Nick. Thank you. Thank you for the biddies. Yeah. Okay. So we've established the kind of things that the features of imposter syndrome, what we can do about it. I will also establish that I should condense the presentation to a video so people can watch. We'll get us some comments, get us some feedback, There are some discussion points. We can do another thing about it. We'll see what the demand is like. The response is like for the additional comments, and then we'll have a go. I think. Hope you guys are good. I hope the vibes have been good. And I understand that some parts of our discussions were a bit heavy, but I think we kept it pretty light in general. And even the heavy bits were like, yeah, but they were relevant, right? Appreciate you all being so cool about it. Ironically, the only one making an Amogus joke was a mod. I think I might as long as you guys are good, I might call it go raid somebody because I should like hop off for a bit and get over with the rest of my day. I should probably go down lay down to Laredo's. Indeed, Laredo's. Yes, it is. I just realized it is pretty late for everyone in EST, 11 p.m. So you guys should let you guys go. Who should we raid? Jelly's online. Anyone doing just chatting? Stop moving the thing. Mo is just chatting. Mo is co-working. He's the boss. Streets playing Heroes of the Storm. Should we rate someone who is staying for the stream in the good vibes? Thank you, Cor, for being here. Thank you all for adding to the good vibes and listening and all that stuff. Should we rate someone who is gaming or someone who is chatting? Thank you for being amazing. Thank you for being here, Bear. I appreciate the support. You know how I wanted to be there for the start of the stream. Wait, you didn't just get in, did you? Yeah, no, thank you all so much. I'm glad that you all had a good time. Good vibes. Alright. Let me You just woke up. Oh man. I'm sorry. But thank you for popping by anyways. I will put up some of this I'll put this so I had to look. No worries, Kevin. It's all good. Thank you for being here.
Perfect.
Thank you, Kev. I appreciate it. We'll start a poll. Poop parade. Sorry for the typo. See if we're gonna do someone just chatting or someone who's a gamer. Hoop indeed. No worries if you miss most of it. I will. Since I've been the imposter all along. There's your imposter joke right there. I've been venting. Damn it. I'll put this I'll see if I can condense this content into like the presentation part of it for people to watch, and then we can talk more about what people want to feel. Both mods made the joke, right? That's why be a mod if you can't do if you can't break all the rules. I want to be here, got that. I deal with Impostor Syndrome stuff and I want to learn stuff. Yeah. Ross made the joke here. Alright. No, but if we'll put the VOD up and also we'll see if I can condense the presentation into a YouTube video. We can watch that. And then also have a place up for like anonymous comments, feedback, points to share, questions to talk about, and then at a later time, there for self-study council. Yeah. Share the PowerPoints as well. Yeah, and then at a later time, if enough comments come in and we can talk about it, we'll do another stream where we can just address the talking points, right? Okay. I remember the last time we raided Jelly. It might have been relatively recent. But hang on, if you do just chatting, the anonymous say sheesh. Uh, mental health. Let's see. Trans rights. What superpower do you have? What game I buy? Fundraiser. Star Wars news set. Uh, just chatting. All right, just chatting. Let's look up someone. Thank you for voting. Let's see who is good here. Help. I'm just gonna like keep narrowing it down. This person, Fishbee. Oh, it's me. Oh, Malaysia English. Wait, why is this? Wait, oh, well, that's his name. That's not the. What is this? The background screen? Come chat and chill.
Hey, both are like solid topics, though. I feel like they're good conversation topics. I don't know.
Maybe this person seems chill.
What you guys are.
All right, let's go. Let's go rate them. Yeah. Rate. Fishbee. Alright. Thanks again everyone for coming. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for all the reason for the raid. People for coming in and saying hi. People for listening, lurking, sharing. I appreciate you all. Thank you all so much for being here. I hope that material's been helpful and that we can have more discussions about all this in the future. Rate 1, rate message. Rate 2 if you have a sub. I appreciate all of y'all being here. Next stream is going to be the part of me that wants to stream tonight because I haven't done remember me this week. Thank you again. Thank you, Nick. Thank you for being here. Everyone for being here. Everyone for supporting. Everyone for sharing. I appreciate you all. Thank you all for being here. Yeah, I probably shouldn't stream tonight. I probably should get prepped for next week. But next stream, that means next stream will be Tuesday. The usual streams. Apex probably. Thank you all. I hope that whenever and wherever you are watching the world, you are well and good. Keep being you. Love you all. Thank you all for being here. Material will be up soon. Go say hi to Splishbee and give them all the love that you would give me even more because we spread some love. Yeah, have a good day. Have a good night to all of you guys. Take care.
Did you ever watch any of the Jordan Peele movies? No, I don't know what that is. Hey, Dad, what is the wattage on your microwave?